Welcome to Skull and Globers, episode 26. Let's get it.
Days after days, pseudoscience just a big charade, making theories they just can't explain, on philosophically biased claims. Days after days, we break away just like a renegade, so pay attention, gonna get a grade. The school and globers tell they all awake. School and globers with diplomas and a chip on their shoulder. Debate is over, mind is sober, solar system disclosure. Can't go back once you heard the facts. We make a pact, never take the backs. School and ballers and the followers that give them their dollars. They try to holler in the chat that you're a fraud, not a scholar. They hating y'all, that's why they attack. The earth is flat no matter how much they laugh. Days after days, pseudoscience just a big charade, making theories they just can't explain, on philosophically biased claims. Days after days, we break away just like a renegade, so pay attention, gonna get a grade. We school and globers tell they all away.
In a world. What up, fam? Alright. So, yes, we are a couple minutes late. What's new? So, pretty cool show today. I think it is a good topic. Hopefully everything sounds good. I think we're good. So, shout out to the Discord, Earth Awakenings, if you want to join the show or just join the Discord in general. They rock 24/7. Link is in the description. Earth Awakenings. Go show them some love. And shout out to them for letting us host the show here. All right, cool. So today's going to be a little bit different than normal. I'm going to play a video. Simon Dan did a video on me a couple days ago, I guess. We're just going to use that to integrate into the question of the day. The last few shows, we've gone over like the same questions over and over. So I will have that PowerPoint. We can pull it up if any Globe Earth proponent wants to actually answer the questions, but I don't want it to become too redundant. So check those out if you're wanting to see that in those explanations. All right, so I'm going to switch the screen over for Discord to show them the video, and then they can turn the volume up so you guys can hear it over there. And you guys just let me know if for some reason it doesn't play. And cool. Let me come over here to the full screen. We're just going to jump right into it. Oh, yeah. If you want to donate during the stream, there's a link in the description. And we're testing it out. It's new because obviously YouTube demonetized me. So I have that in a pill right now. We'll see what happens. But if you want to donate in the stream, I think it should read it out loud and pop up on the screen. So hopefully that works. It's Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Witsit. And it should pop up on the screen. So we're gonna just jump in and start. We're gonna respond to this video and we'll go from there. And actually we'll pop up the question of the day and Discord will be able to hear it. Question of the day is, can you provide exclusive evidence that the earth is in motion? Simple question, but apparently the word exclusive is a hiccup for people, but we'll go from there. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and play it. You guys make sure that, let me know that you can hear the video out in YouTube land, and then we'll go from there. So all right, cool, let's just get in it.
Del is a Scottish flat earther that runs the channel Beyond the Imaginary Curve. Now,
Just kidding. This is not the right video.
we are If there's one flat earth name that I hear time and time and time again from the flurfers, it's WitsitGetsIt. They have truly placed him on some sort of pedestal as being an all-knowing, undefeatable flat earther. Well, I've looked at Witsit before, but I think it's...
You know what you don't look at is the camera, bro. What are you doing? Yo, peep how this dude is literally reading a script and he has to look down the whole video. Like, why wouldn't you at least have learned to put your script like closer to where the camera is? I mean, you're saying like 5 words at a time, bro. You can't remember these things. All right, anyway, we're gonna discuss the video and the subject as we go, because people were hitting me up acting like this guy like dunked all over me or something. So let's see what he's got. I watched the video for the first time a few minutes ago, so I mean, I wasn't really listening. Let's be real. Okay, let's just get into it.
Undefeatable flat earther. Well, I've looked at Witsit before, but I think it's past time that we look at him again.
New donation from JD.
Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a huge thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Surfshark VPN. Now, Surfshark is a VPN...
How about no, bro?
I tell of Surfshark to see theft happens all the time and it's actually quite scary, so you can use computers in today's video and WitsitGetsIt. Now he is of the belief that Earth does not move at all, and in his series True Earth 101 he's going to talk about this motion. Now a quick caveat here, Witsit is very good at retaining information and he speaks well. The trouble is,
unlike yourself, I guess, because you can't retain your script, bro. I mean, this guy's literally reading something, bro. I don't know why I think that's so funny, but anyway, obviously what he's doing here, and this has to be done to most flat earthers, it's like poison the well and somehow attempt to justify why we consistently come out victorious in the discussions. And it is because, of course, we're not, claiming pseudoscientific, unverifiable, crazy claims that can easily be debunked. That's why. Just like Michael Sartain, I'm trying to set up a conversation with him. He goes around, he says, flat earthers win most debates because they're charismatic and they've researched these things. It's like, or maybe we just have a stronger position, right? So he's attempting to justify that, which should be pretty telling. You shouldn't have to do any of that, but anyway.
Right, back to today's video and WitsitGetsIt. Now he is of the belief that Earth does not move at all, and in his series True Earth 101 he's going to talk about this motion. Now a quick caveat here, Witsit is very good at retaining...
I'm sorry, I'll stop saying it after this. Like, isn't it so funny that he's looking down, bro? He's trying to act like he's not reading it. He's trying to make it look like he's not reading a script.
Information, and he speaks well. The trouble is, he twists and turns the truth to suit his narrative, using complex words while sounding confident, yet in reality he knows nothing more than a primary school child. Take it away, Witsit.
I can construct for you a spherically symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations. You can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that. You don't say, George. I mean, it didn't get any better since you made this quote. They completely try to hide it. They call it science, and they deny that it's basically philosophy. What he's saying here is that you can treat the Earth as stationary and in the center of the entire universe, and you can't disprove it with any observations. You can only say, I don't like it philosophically. He says, I don't see anything wrong with that. Well, I disagree, but at least he tried to point it out to people because he said people try to hide that fact and claim it's science.
You know what else George Ellis said? When talking about the independent movie The Principle, which is a film about Earth being of a geocentric nature, he said, and I quote, I was interviewed for it, but they did not disclose this agenda, which of course is nonsense. Nonsense, Witsit. Did you hear that?
Claim number one.
Okay, so this dude's argument is there's a documentary about geocentrism, and This guy called it nonsense. It doesn't matter what he thinks about geocentrism. The quote is not about that. So you notice he didn't address the point at all. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, cool. That makes the point stronger. It's coming from a hostile witness, like a heliocentric proponent saying, we make our decisions when it comes to our models philosophically. We use philosophical criteria. It is not scientific or nor exclusive nor like definitive. It's philosophical. We have a philosophical bias. What point was I making? That the heliocentric model is proposed based on philosophy. That's the point. That's the actual point. So, I mean, obviously that's just a red herring fallacy and an all or nothing fallacy, because I don't have to agree with everything that dude ever said or thinks. And actually, let me break this down. And I get the Discord can't see me, but it's all good. I'm gonna go full camera real fast for the stream. Okay. Whenever I point out, like, look, Einstein said this, or Arthur Eddington said this, Stephen Hawking said this, whatever. So many globe Earth proponents respond by saying, Einstein didn't think the Earth was flat, Witsit. They also think the Earth's a globe. If I point out something in the heliocentric model and they say, no, I'm like, that is for sure what your model says, and they deny it, then I go get a source to show that's what it says. They'll be like, you know what else it says in here? Is that the Earth's a globe? I'm like, yeah, I know. I have to teach you your belief before we can show you why it's wrong, right? But I'm going to give an analogy that most of the ballers can understand. So surely you'll retire this talking point if you can follow the logic here, okay? So it's an all or nothing fallacy, right? That it's either all true or none of it's true. I'm pointing out this guy was correct with the philosophical assessment. That is actually the situation. So it's kind of like telling someone who believes that the Earth is a globe or believes in gravity or whatever, they cannot invoke Newton. They couldn't bring up his Principia, right? Unless they believe in God, because Newton made it very clear that he believed in God and actually that gravity was a direct act of God. So unless you believe in God, you can't believe in Newtonian gravity. That would be the same type of argument. You know what else Newton said? That he believed in God. Aren't you atheist? Of course, an atheist can say, hey, look, here is the Principia, Newtonian mechanics, support their claim about it. It's a ridiculous thing. Oh, you can't bring up Newton unless you believe in God, because if you're an atheist, then you don't agree with everything Newton ever said. So please stop saying that. It's so ignorant. All right, let's just move back up.
Is that the Earth is in motion. The Earth is supposedly spinning over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator while revolving around the sun 66,600 miles per hour on an axial tilt of 66.6 degrees. That's a positive claim. We need to kind of test that. And let me just break down some basic logic here. Do you ever experience that the Earth is moving? Of course not. We can stack rocks up. We actually notice when the Earth moves. It's called an earthquake, right? Because it's actually moving from its previous stationary position. We can see smokestacks going up just straight up in the air. From our observation, the Earth's not moving.
How many times do we have to say this? Human senses are pretty rubbish. There are times when you can absolutely not trust them. But time and time and time again, the flat earthers always say, but can you feel the Earth move? Of course we can't, because we're in constant motion, which according to physics means we may as well be stationary.
Now, the globe claim...
Now, of course, Mr. Simon Dan, who has a rocket tattooed on your arm. I did not say, but can you feel it move, or provide that as some type of refutation of the claim that it's moving. You had to cut it up and then not actually follow along specifically, which was the point, was we can actually detect motion because it's a change from the previous stationary state. All senses and empirical evidence shows us that the Earth is not moving. Okay, so to make a claim antithetical to that, you will have to support that with evidence. And then you claimed that the rotation and motions of the Earth are constant, while, of course, rotation is changing direction. It's not constant. Then you would move the goalpost and say, oh, well, it's not constant, but it's negligible. Okay, but again, that's just a straw man. It's a straw man that I was basically presenting it as an argument. This is really low. It's really low level, honestly. Anyway, The real question is, why would you have to make so many fallacious misrepresentations off the bat? Are you going to misrepresent every single thing I said? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if he has to misrepresent every single thing I said. Surely not, right?
Motion, which according to physics means we may as well be stationary.
Now, the globe claims it is, you just can't tell. Okay, maybe so.
We may as well be stationary.
But you have to verify that, you have to give us some type of evidence to truly substantiate that, because the default position based on all empirical evidence, whether that be how we shoot missiles, how we fly planes, how we fly helicopters, how we do anything, we assume that the Earth is stationary, and how we even look at anything in quote unquote space is we assume the Earth's in the center and stationary.
And this is because everything else on Earth, including the atmosphere, is moving too. As I said earlier, constant uniform motion means we do not feel it. And it is the same.
But why are you saying it like we don't understand? That is not the point. It's irrelevant. This is a red herring. We said you have to substantiate your claim. If it's antithetical to all empirical evidence, we have to treat the Earth like it's stationary for all practical situations in reality. This is where you're supposed to step in and substantiate it with empirical measurements, not where you try to explain to us in theory why it is that you can explain away the fact that you can never detect and measure or validate your claim. You have to validate your claim. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if I started pointing out the fallacies, it's obviously begging the question because he wasn't even able to articulate it and formulate it in a specific argument, which would be affirming the consequent, red herring fallacy, poisoning the well fallacy, a hasty generalization fallacy, and the list goes on.
Is saying that we're not moving. Therefore, to save a load of mathematical problems, it's just easier to assume that the Earth is not moving. By the way, Witsit, you believe...
Oh. That's not why they do it. He said it may as well be stationary, and then he says, oh, that because of the math, it's just easier to assume it's stationary. Well, no, you said that you can't tell it's not stationary, that it's exactly like it was stationary. So that means that in order to actually do any of the technology successfully, you have to treat it like it's stationary. Not that it's just because the math is simpler. It's because you literally have to treat it that way or you wouldn't be able to do it. So point remains. And by the way, let me make sure all of the globe earth proponents soak this in. That is physical positive evidence for a stationary Earth. Right? If you have a claim that it's actually moving or whatever, that's cool. Cool story, bro. Maybe so, huh? Just support it. But if all empirical evidence shows that the Earth is stationary and your claim is, oh, but it's actually moving, I promise, that means it's positive evidence of a stationary Earth. So all of the practical use cases that we do in the real world every day is evidence of a stationary Earth. That's just a fact. So we have a long list of evidence that the Earth is stationary. Quite literally all evidence in the world, right? It's very basic logic. And of course, you start with Occam's razor. That which requires the least amount of assumptions is most likely true. Does that mean it is for sure true? No, but it's the first step of logic. So then where's our default? Who has all the evidence? Who already has the superior intellectual and empirical position? A stationary Earth. It's not even close. It's like 100,000 pieces of evidence to 0. That's just a fact. It's basic logic. Basic logic. And until you learn to actually assess the conversation logically, then you will continue to fall for like spells and, hey, look, my hand's over here.
In a few pages that we can assume Earth is not rotating for the sake of mathematical modelling of flight simulation, but you don't believe in anything else NASA says. You see how that seems a bit off, Witsit?
So you see how that's another all or nothing fallacy. All or nothing fallacy. So I don't have to believe in anything that NASA says because the documents don't just come from NASA, they come from anyone that's ever engineered any type of transportation, any type of ballistics, any type of anything that we use in the world. It's actual physical evidence I can go test myself. You can test it in order to properly utilize any of this actual technology. You have to treat the Earth as if it's flat or you would die. If you tried to fly the plane like the Earth was moving, you would die. Okay, like you have to. So, no, I'm not it's an all or nothing fallacy. Again, either you must believe everything NASA's ever said, or you can never point to any document that they have. Again, okay, if you're an atheist, you can never mention Isaac Newton's version of gravity because he was a theist. In fact, he said that gravity itself was a direct act of God. It's ridiculous. Even though that would be a better avenue to dismiss you invoking him, since he actually claimed that he thought that was the cause of it. So no atheist can bring up Isaac Newton anymore. That's what you sound like when you say, "Oh, now we can rely on NASA, huh?" It's like, that's ignorant. No, this can be verified outside of and independent of NASA. I can't believe them. These are such basic points, dude.
If you're going to claim that's actually just an illusion, you have to, of course, substantiate that. So let's see if this claim of motion of this globe Earth model was actually verified, right? I mean, that's basic logic. We need to verify if this claim is true, because it seems like a lot of people don't really know what it is that they believe in, and they've never actually assessed it with intellectual honesty and logic. This is where they say that we live. And just a quick reminder, they say it's spinning over 1,000 miles per hour east of the equator.
That's linear speed. You measure a rotating object with angular velocity. And that is twice as slow as the hour hand on a clock in the case of Earth.
Right, and of course it's going at different speeds based on different...
Oh, yeah. It's rotating like a clock, but it's not. It's constant. Unlike a clock, I guess, since that has to change direction, thus accelerate. And no, yeah, you measure it in angular speed, and it also has a tangential speed relative to latitude. It's not either or. Speed is not mutually exclusive when it comes to a sphere. Both of them are applicable. Like, are you kidding me? Anyway.
A latitude, because it's a sphere.
But the exact same angular velocity at different latitudes.
They claim it.
Duh. That's non sequitur.
It's tilted, wobbling, 3 different wobbles at least, on a 66.6 degree axis.
Oh, didn't say anything about the wobbles, do you?
Oh, not 66.6 degrees, 23.44 degrees. Why say 66.6 when it is patently incorrect?
And that's, of course, because 23.4 taken from 90 is 66.6.
Then say that it's 23.4 and not 66.6.
It's both. It's either or. Same thing. It's not patently incorrect. It's the same thing, bruh.
And you want to talk about intellectual honesty?
And
Yes.
supposedly orbiting around the sun, 66,600 miles per hour.
The average velocity of Earth in its orbit is around 107,000 kilometers per hour. The orbital velocity of Earth gets...
Hey, is this the baseless assertion fallacy? Like, I think the whole point is that I'm saying there's no evidence of this, bro. Are you just going to be like, well, this is what we're theorizing, therefore it's true? Is that what we're doing?
It's faster and slower as it orbits the sun because of its
Whoa, it's constant, but it's getting faster and slower, bro. Isn't that cool, guys?
hour. The orbital velocity of Earth gets faster and slower as it orbits the sun because of its elliptical orbit.
What did you say right around here in the video? That we can't feel the motion because it's constant. And since it doesn't change, you can't feel it or detect it. It would be like it's stationary. And then you say...
of Earth in its orbit is around 107,000 kilometers per hour. The orbital velocity of Earth gets faster and slower as it orbits the sun because of its elliptical orbit.
And then flying through the galaxy over 1 million miles per hour. And really, that's a typo. It's flying with the sun through the galaxy 500,000 miles per hour as the galaxy flies through space over 1 million miles per hour.
And that's actually a bit of a disingenuous animation, that one, because the solar system travels through space at an angle of around 60 degrees to that of the Milky Way, and systematically moving across the galactic plane as it travels around the center of the galaxy.
Here's a quote. No physical experiment ever proved that the Earth actually is in motion. Lincoln Barnett, the universe and Dr. Einstein. That seems a little different than what we've been told or led to believe.
Okay, what's the point that's being made? That no physical experiment has ever proven that the Earth is actually in motion. That's the point that's being made, right? That's why that part of the quote is being invoked, huh? Because the point being made, which was the point being made earlier, is that there is no actual evidence the Earth moves. You can't detect it, measure it. It's just an assumption. And that no physical experiment has ever proven that the Earth is actually in motion. That's the point being made, right? Okay, let's see. Surely he's going to address the point being made. I mean, all he has to do is be able to read like 12 words, right?
Huh? We just covered the basic logic that everything we've ever experienced is that it's not moving, so we're going to need some evidence that it is moving.
These quotes are silly because you don't ever check them out. Why is there a capital N for no? Because there shouldn't be. That was not the start of the sentence. Now, this quote was lifted from a paragraph where Barnett was talking about Einstein's thought process regarding the motion of bodies through space. The very next paragraph after that says, and I'm reading all of it for context, shortly after publishing.
But you're not going to read the part that you're supposedly contending, though. Let's see what it says here, because the point that I made is apparently going to be refuted with the author's following paragraph, which is what it would mean if it's cherry picking or quote mining. It's that you take something, if you read it in context, it would directly contradict what you said. So I quoted him saying, no physical experiment has ever proven that the Earth is in motion. That means in order for this to be quote mining or cherry picking, something in this paragraph needs to say that there was a physical experiment that proved that the Earth is moving. That's literally what cherry picking and quote mining means. But all these globe Earth proponents will continue to say the quotes are cherry picked as the low-hanging fruit attempt to try to dismiss it instead of addressing the point, just like this goober here, not addressing the point. Such a waste of time. It's such bad faith. Why not just address the point? So let's see what this. He's about to tell us, I guess, that there has been a physical experiment that proved the Earth is in motion, so that he can back up his claim that was cherry picked, I guess.
The special theory of relativity, however, Einstein began wondering if there is not indeed one kind of motion which may be considered absolute, in that it can be detected by the physical effect it exerts on the moving system itself without reference to any other system. For example, an observer in a smoothly running train is unable to tell by experiments performed inside the train whether he is in motion or at rest. But if the engineer of the train suddenly applies the brakes or jerks open the throttle, he will then be made aware by the resulting jolt of a change in his velocity. And if the train rounds a turn, he will know by the outward tug of his own body resisting a change of direction that the train's course has been altered in a certain way. Therefore, Einstein reasoned, if only one object existed in the entire universe, the Earth for example, and it suddenly began to gyrate irregularly, its inhabitants would be uncomfortably aware of their motion. This suggests that non-uniform motion, such as that produced by forces and accelerations, may be absolute after all. It also suggests that empty space can serve as a system of reference within which it is possible to distinguish absolute motion. Quote mining again, Witsit. Dear, oh dear. But let me guess.
Dude, think about how ridiculous you have to be to continue to say it when it's just easily disproven. It's like he must know his target audience quite literally just consumes and believes whatever words come out of his mouth as he looks down at the ground to read a script. It isn't quote mining. Nothing that you said in any way challenged or contradicted what I cited, which was that no physical experiment has ever proven that the Earth is in motion. That's the point being made in the context of the stream, is that you guys believe the Earth is moving, but you can't prove it. No optical experiment, no terrestrial experiment, no physical experiment has ever detected, measured, or proven that the Earth is in motion. That's the point being made. That's the argument. So what do? I offer corroborative, hostile witnesses to show that is objectively the case. So when people come in and try to claim it isn't true, to represent the claim it is moving, we can correct them instead of just wasting our time arguing and debating against a model that doesn't even exist. So what do? You use the catchphrase quote mining so that you can pretend that you don't need to address the point. It's this like blatant wizardry. And you had to edit and chop up a video that you probably took like 30 takes on while reading off of a script to be able to try to pull off the low-level wizardry. And now I get really frustrated that I know that out of the, what is it, like 200,000 that's seen it so far, a lot of the people fell for it. There are so many globe earthers that watch this, they're like, yeah, get him, he quote mined. No. In order for it to be quote mining or cherry picking, you would have to then go read it in context and find out that the claim that I was making was actually in bad faith, misrepresenting the author, and actually what I said is contradicted in the actual context of the paper. I'm covering that a few times so that surely people will stop saying it, because they just say that to just get rid of the quote. They're like, dang, I don't like the statement, no physical experiment has ever proven the earth is in motion, because I run around and regurgitate other anti-flat earthers that claim that pendulums do it and that the ring laser gyro did it and that we can prove the earth is in motion. So I need to find a tactic to get rid of it. Oh, we'll just say it's quote mining. Why would you have to lie so much? It's kind of weird.
Yes. Barnett was wrong in his second paragraph.
To the question whether or not
I didn't say he was wrong. That's irrelevant. It's a red herring. So, it's weird. Nothing to do with what my point was.
the motion of the Earth in space can be made perceptible in terrestrial experiments, meaning as to the question of whether or not we can actually detect or perceive the alleged motion of the Earth in an experiment on the Earth, we've already remarked that every attempt of this nature led to a negative result, meaning we weren't able to actually ever detect, perceive, or measure the motion of the Earth that is assumed. Before the theory of relativity was put forward, it was difficult to become reconciled to this negative result. That's Albert Einstein, Relativity to Special and General Theory, 1920, page 61.
The key here is before the theory of relativity. Before it was put forward, it was difficult to reconcile this negative result.
What negative result? Oh, that it had never been measured or detected. What was the point being made? That it had never been measured or detected. What are the quotes being invoked to support? The fact that it's never been measured or detected. What do globe earthers deny? The fact that it's never been measured or detected. What's a red herring fallacy? Anything other than addressing the point that it's never been measured or detected.
You literally just read it out.
He then explains that the struggle so violent way back in the day between Ptolemy and Copernicus would really be meaningless because either coordinate system could be used with equal justification. I, of course, challenge him on that. You have to verify the validity or justification for the idea that it's moving. We know that the stationary Earth can be used with justification because that's how we use the Earth for everything. This is a hostile witness, and he says the two sentences, quote, the sun is at rest and the earth moves, or the sun moves and the earth is at rest, would simply mean two different conventions concerning two different coordinate systems, Albert Einstein and the evolution of physics, 1938. Of course, relativity is still used to this day as the glue for this entire claim that we're flying through space and just can't tell.
But that's what general relativity is. It's the nature of the beast. You pick a coordinate system and describe what you're seeing. It can actually be used to disprove any theory you put forward regarding Earth.
So he says, well,
Was that the dumbest thing you've heard today, or is it just me?
the glue for this entire claim that we're flying through space and just can't tell.
But that's what general relativity is. It's the nature of the beast. You pick a coordinate system and describe what you're seeing. It can actually be used to disprove any theory you put forward regarding Earth.
And that statement can't be used to disprove what I just said, though. I know I'm really being redundant. Let's cover it again. What was the point?
And the evolution of physics, 1938. Of course, relativity is still used to this day as the glue for this entire claim that we're flying through space and just can't tell.
Okay, so the point being made is that we still can't tell, can't measure, can't detect it. No experiment ever, optical, terrestrial, or physical in any way, has ever actually proven, detected, measured, or even caused us to perceive this alleged motion. Right? That's the point. And then I say, this is a hostile witness, of course, so that I can avoid bad faith tactics like this, but he didn't even grasp that he put the refutation of his bad faith tactic in the video, which is hilarious. And then he says, what? It's the nature of the beast. Okay. Yeah, the point is that this is still what the model uses to this day. That means that if you believe in this belief system, you must acknowledge you cannot actually verify your belief system. That it's a blind belief, right? And like I always say, ineptitude conflates paradox and profundity. Something else that happens is ineptitude conflates conceptual understanding with truth. Meaning that once people think they can wrap their mind around the principle, the idea, which is what he's doing. He's just explaining the idea, just basically asserting and explaining the idea. It's like, if you can understand it, then that makes it true somehow. As if to imply that the reason that flat earthers exist is because they don't understand it. No, that's irrelevant. It's like me saying there are little gnomes at the center of a globe that inhale and bring everything down in gravity. And then someone challenges it and I say, do you not understand what breathing in means? So when you have a lung, it creates a little vacuum inside of your body. And like, no, it doesn't matter if you explain it and someone can grasp the concept. It doesn't mean it's real.
But that's what general relativity is. It's the nature of the beast. You pick a coordinate system and describe what you're seeing. It can actually be used to disprove any theory you put forward regarding Earth.
So he says, while I was thinking about this problem in my student years, I came to the result of Michelson-Morley experiment. Soon I came to the conclusion that our idea about the motion of the Earth with respect to the ether is incorrect. If we admit Michelson's null result as a fact, this was the first path which led me to the special theory of relativity. Since then, I've come to believe that the motion of the Earth cannot be detected by any optical experiment, though the Earth is revolving around the sun in the context of Michelson-Morley, and using the word optics, that would be utilizing light, which is the most precise form of measurement that we have to this day. You can use laser interferometry to very precisely measure motion.
What, you're just going to gloss over the fact that Einstein said at the end there, though the Earth is revolving around the sun?
Yeah, because that's the point. That's literally, what? The point is that even though he believes that, he's saying that you can't actually detect it. So why are you never addressing the actual point, bro?
The Michelson-Morley experiment was trying to detect the proposed ether, and it failed.
It was not. It wasn't trying to detect the ether. It was the relative motion of Earth and the luminiferous ether. It was trying to detect a fringe shift to see if there was a difference in the velocity of light relative to direction, relative to the assumed motion of the Earth within an ether. Trying to detect the ether. No, that's not what it was trying to do. It was trying to detect the effect of the Earth moving through an ether on light.
Meaning there is no ether. And by their own words, with no ether, the Earth must be in motion.
And there was literally never once that their own words suggested such a ridiculous thing. They tried to detect ether, but there was no ether. And in their own words, if there is no ether, the Earth must be in motion. That's not what happened. They said, okay, we have a problem. Either the Earth is not in motion, or we're going to have to get rid of the ether and then change all of physics to explain how we're not detecting the interferometry by changing the actual methodology of motion that we claim inside of our model for the orbit. Think about how... This is the most ignorant statement I've ever heard about MMX, which is saying a lot.
On the sun. The Michelson-Morley experiment was trying to detect the proposed ether, and it failed, meaning there is no ether. And by their own words, with no ether, the Earth must be in motion. Look, Witsit can sit here and quote mine to his heart's content.
Think about how stupid this is, bro. First of all, what did I quote mine? If you go read the whole entire paper, it says the same thing more extensively in more detail. In fact, in the stream that the clip comes from, I do that very thing. In context, it makes my argument stronger, right? You claimed in their own words, that would be quote mining if you actually said a quote. Technically, he just quote mined only. It's not even a real quote, right? So he just blatantly lied. But like if you were to say that the Earth's not in motion because of the lack of detection of ether, and you would have claimed that that's what they said, well, then you could go read the context and be like, that's not what they said at all. He's the one guilty of doing anything in the direction of quote mining or cherry picking, right? Only he didn't even actually pull a real quote from the paper at all, because he wouldn't be able to find such a ridiculous asinine statement in that paper. He's obviously never read it. He doesn't even understand the test. So, I mean, I guess what's so frustrating is you guys see how you can tell that it works. You can tell that when well-edited and specifically crafted wizardry is put out like this, you can tell, you can feel it, right? That people are watching it and they're like, yeah, get him. Yeah, take that. What's it? You know, like, yeah, stupid flurf. It's like everything he's saying is very illogical and dishonest.
But it does not disprove anything regarding Earth's motion. For example, Barnard's star is the star with the largest proper motion of any star that we can see. Now, proper motion is the angular change in position of a star across our line of sight, measured in arc seconds per year. That takes into account a star's radial velocity and true motion, and it measures against the backdrop of stars. Now, Barnard's star has a proper motion of around 10 arc seconds per year. Now, the great thing about this is when we measure the parallax of Barnard's star, we see it moving from left to right, a consequence of Earth's orbit around the sun viewing the star from different viewing points throughout the year. Boom. Wow, what a finish that was.
Bruh, is that the dumbest thing I've ever heard or what? Like, no, it's not the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay, so anyway, obviously you're just saying that the star is moving, but it's actually not moving. It's just an illusion. It's because we're moving, I promise, but we can't detect or measure our movement. So the Earth is moving. We just can't detect, measure it, but I promise it is. Trust me on that. And then the star looks like it's moving, but it's not moving because the way we know it's not moving is we can rely on the fact that we cannot actually verify that we are moving. So if we assume we are anyway, then we can also therefore assume that the star is actually not moving even though we see it moving. And therefore, when we reverse engineer the actual movement, not to consider the resolvability issues with parallax and all of that, right? Then we can say, oh, look, the star moving proves it's not moving, which proves the Earth is moving even though you can't tell it is moving. It's the dumbest thing. Oh my gosh.
What do you all think of that? And what did you think of Witsit's quote mining? Let me know in the comments either way. But
yo, I guarantee if you go down here, it's going to be like all these people talking about how I quote mined. I didn't quote mine one thing, bro.
for now, I have to say we're all done and dusted for another Flat Earth Friday. We'll leave Witsit there and perhaps we'll revisit another one of his True Earth 101 videos soon. Thanks so much for watching today. It is, of course, truly appreciated.
You're just like nervous? Why you look down so much? All right, cool. So that's about it. I'm going to pop over on the screen real fast. Let me change the screen for Discord as well. All right, come over here and I'll just talk to you guys real quick. So yeah, the question of the day is very simple. Instead of doing a whole PowerPoint this time, we're just going to ask the question of the day and see if anyone can actually answer it. And the question is, can you provide exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? Can you provide any actual exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? Period. Any motion. Any motion. Just provide exclusive evidence that the Earth's in motion. Okay, thank you, man. So, Jeremy says parallax. And so anyone that wants to jump in, if we give the priority to the globe earther, so you can jump in. But if there's not, then we're just going to go ahead and open it up right now. And someone did donate. I'll read off the donations as we go. I thought it was going to read them off, but it just says this. It'll read off that you donated, but I guess not the actual donation that you sent. But oh well. So if you want to donate, links in the description. We'll ring it up. If you have any topics you want us to cover or anything like that, you can super chat it. But it's through Ko-fi. The link's in the description and it'll pop up on the screen, so we won't miss it. And okay, cool. That's about it. I'm just gonna pop the Discord on the screen for you guys. We're gonna open up the chat. But obviously, I'll just say this real quick. This is all they can say to these quotes instead of addressing the actual point, which is that no optical, terrestrial, or physical experiment has ever detected, measured, or proven that the Earth is in motion. Instead of being like, yeah, that's right, we haven't ever done that, right? They have to avoid it so that they can turn around in another instance and claim that all those very things, in fact, have happened. And that means that you're bad faith, you're intellectually dishonest, you're disingenuous, that you have to lie to represent your position. That's what it means objectively. That you have to use bad faith tactics to try to represent your position. If flat Earth is so archaic and stupid and easily disproven, and the globe Earth is so scientific, and that's why all the scientists agree, and you can destroy flat Earth in your sleep, and it's so stupid, then why would you have to do all of that? Use all of that energy for years. Both of the videos this dude did covering me, he claimed that I was like quote mining or something. And why do you have to do that? So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there into the ether to the open-minded party that's maybe like on the fence. Think about that. Wait, is it true or is it not true that you can't actually detect or measure the Earth's motion? And why is it that you guys can't just easily and immediately concede that? Right, because if you have the truth, there would be nothing to hide. And again, last time I'm going to explain it, quote mining or cherry picking is when you would go read that quote in context and it would actually contradict the argument or point that was that the quote was invoked to make. Meaning, if I make an argument and I back it up with a quote, if you go look at the quote and it doesn't back up the argument I said, then that would be quote mining. If I had said, for example, and then I'll open it up. Whenever I say with the quote, there is no optical experiment that has ever, I've come to the conclusion that no optical experiment can detect the motion of the Earth, although the Earth revolves around the sun. Okay? Now, if I say, even Einstein said that you can't detect the motion of the Earth with any actual experiment on the Earth, and then I invoke that quote to support it, what was the argument? What was the claim that I made that I invoked Einstein to support? That even Einstein admitted, implying that even though that is obviously someone that believes in your position, but not only someone that believes in it, someone that helped build it, and his theory is still the glue and staple of your position, so it's like the strongest hostile witness that you could possibly have, right? Even he admits that although he believes it and created entire theories to keep it alive, you can't actually verify it with any type of experiment to detect the motion of the Earth. It's not possible. Right? That's the point. So when you go read it and it says, haha, stupid flurf, it says that although the Earth moves around the sun, you're so stupid. No, that would make you ignorant, because that is irrelevant and doesn't in any way combat the point being made that the quote was invoked to support. All right, I said that like 4 times, but it's just crazy. I would have thought that there's no way this was still going on after 5 years, and that's all I hear. Every comment section of every debate I'm in is like, oh man, Witsit just cherry picks quote mines and uses word salad. Like, anyway, and I'm not saying, it's not really about like ego or me or whatever. It's just about like the truthers in general. Like when they bring up Einstein's quotes to explain relativity to them, they like always just claim it's quote mining or something. Like, no, it's not. All right, so we're going to pop over here, pop the Discord up. Let me... Discord. Boom. All right. And like I said, if you guys want to donate to the chat, YouTube demonetized us, so it's greatly appreciated if you do. And everyone that's signing up for one of the months, the month feature, like the monthly member, I'm almost ready to roll out a whole new community for all the people that sign up for monthly support. It'll be a private community. It'll have an app. It'll have private news feeds, private messages, private content, exclusive live streams that just us all come kick it on video chat, etc. So you'll become part of the Miswits that way if you support on any platform monthly, and that includes Ko-fi. Okay. All right, so I'm going to open it up again and just say the question of the day, which is, can you provide exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? And then we'll get into whatever subject pops up from there. So, boom. I don't think we have any Globers, and we'll just let the truthers pop in. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's shout out to the people we have on the panel. We got my boy Toby, Gio, Piezo. He needs to change his name in here. And Alan and Jeremy. What's up, everybody?
Yo,
I love seeing that we triggered him.
Yeah.
Or his handlers or whoever. So much so that he had to write a script and do the video, and it's like I don't know. It's funny. He says, we're not understanding it. You kind of made the point that he acts like we don't understand it, but it's really just about we don't want to violate logic. Like, that's actually what it comes down to. And then he made that insane statement about, like, you pick a coordinate system and describe what you're seeing. It can be used to disprove anything you put forward. So it's like, okay, I guess we're just going into pure solipsism at this point then, because we're not able to disprove it. Like, yeah, just I don't know. Always funny to watch how fallacious they can get.
What's the relevance of a mathematical construct that can not be tested against or compared to anything to be invalidated? It just could disprove anything. Like, what's its usefulness to then as data in the first place?
Don't you guys think it's super telling that they have to stick with to address the like damning nature of the point? They have to like just get rid of it and not acknowledge it at all by claiming it's like quote mining or whatever. They don't actually address the point.
well, because relativity is kind of just based off of gaslighting and thought experiments, the only way to really defend it is to be fallacious and gaslight. Because when you look at the history of it, you look at the experiments, that are, that directly contradict it. The only way to interpret those experiments is to just defy logic, enter paradoxes, and leave the lab frame, dude. Just give up that lab frame for free.
New donation from Brandon. Question the answers.
You guys can't hear when there's a donation, huh?
No, but I see they're going off. Nice. Keep the money flowing in.
New
guys.
donation from Flatman B.
Shout out to Brendan and Flatman B for donating. We're gonna read them off in a bit. Do any ballers not have evidence that we're moving, bro? Because that's rough. You think that we're tilted, wobbling around, spinning, flying through space, being dragged through space, and then taking off 1,000,000 miles an hour? I mean, you got to have some. I mean, to believe something so preposterous, you would have to have some, like, actual evidence of that, right? I mean, you would think.
Yeah, they tried their best to get some, and they used all their interferometries, and they couldn't get any, unfortunately.
The whole thing about how it was about them trying to detect the ether or whatever. It's crazy. It's almost like these people have no idea how physics works, and the fact that Maxwell and Faraday, like the whole premise of how we got to where we are comes from what they figured out, and the fact that there was a material medium that the electromagnetic waves were propagating through. So like when they want to do Michelson-Morley, it was based around that like solid understanding of how that worked. And so it's not like they were trying to, maybe is there an ether? Is there not? Let's do an experiment to figure that out. That's like anyone that tries to make it sound like that's what they were doing has a very fundamental misunderstanding of, what that experiment was actually about. It was about detecting the motion through the ether because they knew the way that worked at that time.
New Ko-fi subscription from Alan.
Hey, new sub from my boy Alan. Let's go.
New donation from Godzilla37.
Hey, Gorzilla37. Thank you for the donation. We're gonna read them off in a bit. I thought she was gonna read them, which I thought would be cool, but you guys wouldn't hear it anyway. So, okay. I was trying to see if I could turn my camera on Discord. That way, everyone could be on camera if they wanted to, and you could still see them on stream. But it's not. It's not working. Whatever. All right. So, I guess, dude, this is what's so crazy is. Obviously, I'm not just talking about the orbit. I'm talking about any motion. How do we not got a baller in here that wants to come defend the motion? No motion? You guys have no exclusive evidence of any of the motion? Like, what? Damn, 2024 is rough for you guys. You guys know you can't even come here and defend the rotation at this point? Oh, man. Oh, you can't even make rotation claims anymore.
Maybe they're learning lessons about relational motion finally.
Dude, that's
they're afraid
rough.
to make the claim that it's exclusive.
Which means that it would be evidence, right? Like this is, at this point, the evidence says that the Earth is not moving. So you know how they always say, no evidence for a flat Earth? Again, it's like, no, you mean like literally all evidence that exists in the history of mankind. Like literally. So bring up, how do you measure motion? Well, we have different ways, right? We have different ways to measure motion. Okay? If we try every single one of the ways we can, it shows that it's not moving. So that would be evidence that it's not moving, right? We actually have to break down logic. Like, this is so crazy. If we try to measure something to see if it's moving and we get no movement, then it's not moving. That would be evidence that it's not moving, bro. Right? Like if
you want
New
Xanax up
donation
there?
from Ericy.
I don't care. But I mean, obviously, I'll just have to keep him in check if he gets carried away. Is he ready? Oh, he's raising his hand? Okay, I'll let him up. So yeah, it's getting rough out here, man. I guess we can read the donations.
The target argument. The leading target argument shows that we're not rotating. They wouldn't be flying that path.
I mean, not only do they try to use things like thanks Bob and stuff to say, we can reverse motion, they forget to remind themselves that they shouldn't just detect like a sidereal rotation. They should also detect like all the translational motion through the solar system, through the galaxy, through the universe. All those motions would be detected. Thanks, Wang.
Let's go ahead and read off the super chats because they're scared. So, JD, you're a straight up wordsmith, man, and an asset to the movement. Thank you, brother. And thank you for the $20 donation on Ko-fi. Much love. Thank you to the legends that came over to support me on here as YouTube thinks they're going to get rid of us. Brandon, question and answers. Much love, brother. Much love to you, brother. Thank you for the $14 tip on Ko-fi. Thank you for the super chat. Flatman B, imagine being so delusional that you're a shill for the globe, calling other people disingenuous. Wait, let me pull it up. The irony, bro. I know, right? Thank you for the $5 donation. Much love. And like I said, my boy Alan from Space Audits, go show him some love on YouTube. It's Space Audits. Became a monthly member. Shout out to my boy. And if you don't know, there are 5 tiers over there: water, fire, air, earth, ether. Monthly subs, and you're gonna get brought into a community it's gonna be lit, bro. So it's gonna be its own little Miswit social media, basically. And there'll be all kinds of exclusive hangouts and live streams and events and etc. So if you support, say if there's patrons that have been supporting, I'm gonna bring you guys over and get you in. And then eventually you'll be able to just go there and sign up as well. If you signed up as a monthly person on Ko-fi, then you'll get brought in. I'll reach out to all of you individually. Now, one thing is I'll have to make sure I can get in contact with everyone, but I think I can message you directly on Ko-fi. And we're going to get you into the community. It's going to be dope. All right. That way we don't have to ever worry about them shutting us down or anything like that again. So yeah, shout out to Alan. Thank you for becoming a
Ko-fi subscription from Laura Kyler Goldsmith.
Okay, and then we have Godzilla. Get in there, Ray. You're so bold and sure in chat. Yeah, that's how it goes, bro. Thank you for the $5 tip. Hey, Ray, Godzilla's calling you out, bro. And Eric, thank you for the $5 tip on Ko-fi. Much love. And Lori Kyler Goldsmith. I'm going to say your name if it's on there, by the way, just so everyone knows. Thank you for signing up for the water tier, the first tier, and being a monthly member. We'll get you into the Misfits once we launch it. It'll be soon. So shout out to you guys. Thanks for supporting. All right, cool. Now we are caught up on the tips, and we'll keep on doing it. If you have any specific questions or anything like that, reach out. And by the way, if whoever becomes a member, whoever signs up to be like a monthly supporter before it's actually launched, are going to get exclusive things. Because that means that you're the real ride or dies. Because once everyone hears about it, they're like, oh, I want to get in. But, so just throwing that out there. But, all right, cool. Let's get back to it here. I thought Zanuck raised his hand, but didn't come up. Zanuck, you're scared, bro? I mean, I think you may be a very good opportunity to teach people. Ah, man. Dude, you guys are, it's funny though, right? Because if back in the day, if you ever said, so do you have any evidence the earth is actually moving? Do you have any evidence of actual rotation? They would have been chomping at the bit. You know what I'm saying? Just so ready to say the word pendulum or ring laser gyro. Like, what happened? What happened, guys?
Word, we would have been
New
hearing about
donation
toilet
from
bowl
Cheese Mice.
flushes, all types of stuff.
Did you guys see the debate I had on MDD where the guy tried to say the toilet bowl thing? And I'm like, bro, that's not a real thing. Did you see it? He he acted like he could take my $15 or $15,000 bet, even though I don't have. I'm like, dude, I don't have anywhere close to $15,000 to bet you. Isn't that like a tell that I'm confident in the answer?
New Ko-fi subscription from Shane.
Hey, shout out to Shane. Welcome, brother.
New donation from Kyle G.
See, I feel like I got to read it out because you guys can't hear it. I got to figure out a way to get you guys to hear it. Okay, I guess the problem is what I could do. Okay, I think I know what we're going to do. I'm going to try to make it where you guys can hear it. No, I can't figure out how to do it through Discord. because I could make it where the computer plays through the sound plays through the computer and you could hear it, but that's gonna feedback super bad on the mic. It's gonna sound terrible. But I don't know, Toby. How are you doing? I guess you're on push to talk.
Yeah. I have a software mute thing that I use.
Gotcha. Because I have to wear headphones for the Skull and Globers episodes, which is whack. And apparently there's a Ko-fi bot automatically in the YouTube. That's lit. So that's so fire. So whoever's donating, and you know how normally the super chat will pop up. Whoever's donating is popping up in the YouTube chat as a new donation. That's pretty cool. We're gonna beat YouTube, man. Screw them. All right. Anyway, we got all the housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll periodically check everything. So I guess what I'm saying is
subscription from Heracles.
Heracles, shout out, bro. Don't you guys think it's kind of crazy that we can't even, I mean, we can play the video of that pastor. We have another video if you guys want to watch it.
Subscription from Shane.
Because the Globers are scared to even defend the spin of the earth now, bro. It's just like, you guys are just, it's just over, I guess. The debate's just over now. We got like 500 people. And none of you guys can. I just want to believe, bro. I just want to believe in the globe again. Just someone tell me how you know the earth is moving. Or what we can do, how about this? We'll have to do what we have to do, right? I'll be the baller. I'll be the baller.
New Ko-fi subscription from LEV Leaded.
That's all we can do now.
I always saw the earth turning on TV.
Oh, wow, bro. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
All right, look, I'll be the baller. If you guys, even in Discord, you'll be able to see me in baller form because I'm showing my OBS. I'm going to go full screen. I'm going to make a baller argument, the motion of the earth, and then I'll just have you guys show why it's wrong since they're clearly afraid to do it. So we want to make the show educational. All right, let's do it. Pop over like this. Do you have any exclusive evidence that the earth is actually in motion, dude? Or is it just some like weirdo blind belief that you have? What? Of course we have evidence. What do you mean by exclusive? I mean, what else is it? Like a flat earth, you know? Of course it's exclusive. The evidence that the earth is moving, and there's tons of evidence that the earth is moving. The first one is, of course, ring laser gyroscopes. And what they do is they detect 15 degrees per hour. Okay? Stupid flurfs, they think that they can just talk about linear speed. We don't measure how fast the earth moves in speed, okay? We measure it with angular motion, 15 degrees per hour, right? And that proves that the earth is spinning. Because we can use a ring laser gyroscope on the earth and we can actually detect that the earth is moving 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob. So there you go. All right. Dude, it's so wild. Like, you guys are afraid to say that still? All right, now we're going to pop back over. All right, what you guys got, man?
New donation from Silly Question.
If you're scared.
Well, it's interesting, Glober Austin, that you invoked the thanks Bob thing. Have you ever looked at Bob's data? Glober Austin, you there?
All right. Yeah. So I've seen his data. What about it?
Oh yeah, you loaded it up into a SQL database. You took those CSV dumps and you loaded them up and you checked over the data. And so then you saw that there was a temperature fluctuation that actually made the quote unquote 15 degrees per hour go up and down and not actually read at 15 degrees per hour. And that it's actually relative to a lot of other things other than just, one reading 15 degrees per hour. There's actually fluctuations with temperature, fluctuations with altitude. It's not quite so straightforward. So, you'd have to actually say which measurement specifically you're going to try and invoke on that. But really, the whole thing with the ring laser gyro is kind of a big problem there, Glober Austin, because this whole rotational vector that you're trying to invoke, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because orthogonally we have no variation in direction north and south, but we have only a variation in direction going east to west, and we have essentially no measurements of it in the southern hemisphere, quote unquote. But the one that we do have says that the retardation of the directionality of the preferred directionality of light actually was the opposite of what it should have been. So The whole thing with the ring laser gyro, it's maybe not quite so bulletproof. If you have a specific measurement you want to invoke that you want to bring to us, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Damn, bro. Yeah. So, well, okay. Have you not ever seen Behind the Curve, bro? So we know that Bob measured 15 degrees per hour. I mean, there's a whole Netflix.
Which measurement was that? Because with
All
the
of them.
documentary, right? Like, I would never go to court and bring as my evidence a documentary series that appeals to emotions. I would go to court and I would bring a specific measurement and I would show how that measurement was taken, and then I would show how that measurement directly correlates to the line of logic that I'm trying to draw. So can you do that? Can you show me a specific measurement that was made that showed the 15 degrees per hour with the ring laser gyro? And then still we have to talk about the orthogonal issue that we have with the north-south versus east-west thing.
Toby, it's not possible to debate this. No, dude, okay, so I can debate it like a Glover, though. Okay, you're just saying a bunch of big words to try to sound smart and you're scattergunning, okay? So you've obviously been listening to WitsitGetsIt. You just think that you can just say words, a bunch of word salad, and then somehow you're going to woo the audience. We've all seen the Netflix series. Everyone knows that the Earth spins 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob. We already measured it, okay? So you want to talk about temperature or whatever, like... Yeah, that's the only reason that he didn't get 15 degrees higher up. I know that because I listened to Jim Panda Server and they said that, and I believe them. And McToon told me that that's true. Okay, and so I don't need to look at the data. I know that McToon doesn't lie. Okay, and he told me that the only reason that he got a different measurement in degrees at a higher altitude at the same latitude is because we do know the Earth is spinning, and that he just didn't account for things like pressure differential. Okay, so the pressure changes, the temperature changes, and that's why it changed. But before that, it doesn't affect it at all. So the temperature doesn't affect it at all until it's not doing 15 degrees per hour. Okay, and if you weren't such a stupid flurf, you would already know that. So how about this? So what you're trying to say, I can actually be really good. I can actually do what they really do, or I can gaslight you. Just know I love you, brother. Okay, this isn't really me. Okay, this isn't me. Okay. Oh, so basically what you're saying is that coincidentally, just like my model, just like the globe predicts, we measure 15 degrees per hour, just like the globe predicts, right? And it actually isn't the spin of the Earth. It must be something else, and it's just a coincidence that it matches exactly what the globe predicts.
Relative to what temperature, pressure, latitude, and altitude.
Whatever you maintain to keep it within the error margins of the particular device that you're using.
So you have no particular measurement, and you have no particular methodology, and you have no particular line of logic to draw to actually assert the motion. Then even if we were to grant you all of that, you're making an assertion about relational motion. And really, at the end of the day, we're just talking about, am I measuring the movement of the medium, or am I measuring the movement of myself? And this is not an exclusive evidence, really. So this was kind of
he said medium. Oh, we got one of these ether believers. Oh, this magical, mystical medium that was disproven in 1887 by Michelson Morley. Oh, just say the ether. Flurfs, they still believe in the ether. They must think that this is like the 2000 BC or something. I mean, it was disproven over 100 years ago, okay? And what I want is for you to say it's just a coincidence that we actually get 15 degrees per hour. You keep asking me which particular measurement. All of them ever, Toby, okay? All of them ever, and they match the globe every single time. So that's what the Sagnac effect is. So Michelson, Gale, Pearson, they measured the spin of the Earth. They measured the rotation of the Earth. I can't talk in that high pitch of a voice too much longer. I'm not gonna lie. Keep going,
want to tag in Baller Allen?
Yes, Baller Allen. Please go, Baller Allen.
This is Baller Allen, Toby. I have a question for you about Michelson, Gale, Pearson. How come that measurement was a prediction of relativity theory, and it falsifies the ether theory?
A prediction of relativity theory? Wait, hold on there a minute, Baller Allen. What was that? The prediction of page 1 of Albert Einstein's 1905 paper on the electrodynamics of moving bodies, where he says that we won't pick a particular point in quote unquote space and assign a velocity vector to that point, because that would essentially be invoking an absolute space, which Einstein was the whole point of the whole thing, was to say that there is no absolute space. So actually to even try and make your assertion about the Earth rotation being measured with Michelson-Gale-Pearson is already on its face stands in logical contradiction to what Einstein said and the idea that there shouldn't be an absolute space. Because every time that you invoke a preferred directionality of the speed of light, even if you're trying to invoke it to be Earth rotation, you have to go to even make a measure, to make a mathematical explanation of that. You have to go invoke a geometrical coordinate based within absolute space. Then you can step out of absolute space from there, and you can make whatever you want to have happen. But in order to get back to here, back to reality, to make the math work, you have to invoke absolute space. I hate to tell you.
Well, that's a really cool word salad. But here's the actual mechanism. The Earth's magnetic field rotates with the Earth, right? Because we know it's a rotate ball, go spin. And that drags the light in a preferred direction, which is a prediction of relativity theory. That's why it matches in Michelson-Gale-Pearson. What say you, sir?
Get him.
Man, it's rough. Once you take away absolute space, what are they supposed to do?
Oh, well, diversion. He's scared, Alan. He's scared.
Wow. He just said I'll take that as a.
I literally got lost in Glover Allen's word salad.
So it is word salad, but here the answer is the fact that it's not affected by north-south propagation disproves that, because they would have the only way that they could explain it, right? They would have to invoke absolute space for the distance traveled east-west. But then there would also be a north-south displacement, right? Because the mirror's not going to be in the same spot as the Earth's rotating, right? So they would have to invoke a north-south displacement, but there's no variance ever shown north-south. So they can't, they just say Earth rotation, go boom or whatever. But when you look into it, they actually proposed a mechanism, Earth's magnetic field, to carry it. So in that regards, it would definitely have to displace north-south as well too, because it's a uniform motion.
Yo, dude, this is
rotational vector.
Dude, we've gotten further into the argument than any Glober would ever make it. You know, like the Globers don't even have it in them to try to address this stuff. Like they need us. This is literally schooling the Globers. Let me read the donations real quick, and we'll just pick it back up. This is actually a great format. I'm realizing that this is way more productive for people than listening to an actual baller. All right, so we got Kyle. Keep up the good work, Austin. Much love, brother. Much love to you. Thank you so much for the $30 tip on Ko-fi. Again, link in the description. Thank you, bro. Heracles, welcome to the fire tier. Thank you for signing up to become a Miswit, brother. Much love. We're going to show YouTube that they can kick rocks. They can't stop the Miswits. So thanks for signing up. Cheese and rice. I said rice. Right, you've been blowing up chat. Show us what you got. Waiting. Thank you for the $5 tip. Dude, Ray, the chat's got beef with you, bro. Come on in, dude. The link to the Discord is in the description. Pop in. We'll let you pop right on and tell us what's going on. But mods, don't censor anybody unless they're saying something just absolutely egregious and spamming insults or something. Honestly, even with that, be really lenient. Shane St. Pierre, welcome to the Earth tier. Hey, shout out to my boy Shane. Thanks for becoming a member. You can pop up onto the panel as well, bro, if you raise your hand. But shout out to my boy Shane. Welcome to the Miswits, bro. I'm excited because when we have this like little Miswits social media, it's gonna be lit. All right, level-headed. Thank you for the $10 tip. Oh, you became a Miswit as well. Welcome to the Fire tier. Let's go, level-headed. Welcome to the Miswits. Shane Taft, welcome to the Earth tier. Thank you for signing up. And welcome to the Miswits. Thank you so much. Shout out to you. And David signed up for water. Shout out to David. Thank you for becoming a Miswit. Welcome to the Miswits, brother. And then silly questions. Eat it, globalist. I want you to still man it, straw man it. And thank you, silly questions, for the donation on Ko-fi, brother. Much love. And West Web FX. Shout out to you becoming Air. Look at that. Dude signed up for the Air tier. So welcome to the Miswits, bro. And you guys will all be getting exclusive merch and perks very soon. So it should be exciting. All right, cool, man. Thank you guys for signing up, dude. It's gonna be cool. All right. Let's go back to the very profound. So basically, what you guys are saying that you can't actually rebut the fact that we measure 15 degrees per hour. So you just start talking about like orthogonal. You just start using big words. You think that you're just gonna trick everyone and talk about north south. But what the point is that the globe predicts that the Earth. Let me break this down for you guys, okay? The way we know the Earth is moving is because in science, you have a theory that makes a prediction, and then you test your prediction. And if you see if the prediction comes true, that means that your theory's right, okay? And that only your theory can be right. I'm just kidding. They wouldn't say that, but that's how they act. So anyway, so the globe makes the prediction that it is a sphere with a circumference of 24,901 miles, and that it is rotating. And that means it's going to rotate 15 degrees per hour. And the proof of that is that we see the sky rotate 15 degrees per hour, just like the globe predicts. And then when we get the gyro, it matches 15 degrees per hour. So you guys are trying to tell me that it's just a coincidence that we came up with the globe model and it made predictions, and then the evidence just so happens to perfectly match the predictions, but actually it's wrong. Just to recap for the audience. That's your guys' claim.
It's just pure gaslighting.
It's so hard.
Alan, you want to follow up first and second order measurements?
Yeah. So quick thing on the translational speed. You know how we were talking about that, right? So, we measured the angular speed. That's cool. We do for sure. But also there was the translational speed, the linear speed was measured. So in 2004, Ruyong Wang, using a fiber optic loop, a linear segment of it, using only linear motion, directly measured it relative to nothing else. And the equations he used were really interesting, because when you look at them, it shows a proportional it shows a velocity ratio that's proportional to the speed of light. So it measures a variant, like the fringe pattern produced, you can measure that, and it gives a proportional velocity to the speed of light with no corrections, assumptions, or transformations or anything. Just straight up linear motion being measured. Now, remember 1905, Einstein came in with a big boy solution to the 1887 experiment Michelson-Morley, where the translational motion of the Earth around the sun wasn't measured. And they said, no, we can't do that, homie. Sorry. Your measurements are in a different reference frame, right? So that turns out to not even be true. You can directly measure linear motion experimentally in the lab.
No, actually, all you have to do is understand that if you step into a different reference frame, okay, and then we assume absolute space, then we can actually make the linear interferometer work. So I don't know why you guys keep bringing that up. We've already debunked it. Do any actual ballers...
From Adam.
Sorry. Do any actual... I heard the subscription. Do any actual ballers want to jump on and tell us how you know that the Earth is actually in motion? Why are you guys so scared? I'm looking at the audience, and there are plenty of globe Earth believers in here. Just jump on, because you're really killing my vibe, making me be this guy.
I saw it on TV.
Wow. I don't even think that's true. Yeah, so Alan, you're making two good arguments, bro, right? Like what ends up happening is I just feel like gross. Because if I have to go the next step into like specificity, it's gross. It makes me feel like I need to take a shower or something. So does anyone else want to be a baller? Can we take turns so it's not so bad? Like, I'll be honest, there's no response. There's no actual response there. I mean, so, okay, here's the response. Well, I don't actually think that's true. Oh, there's some patent and it must be real. Like, you can patent anything. So that doesn't mean that thing actually works. There's no proof of it. Can you do it? Can I go buy one of these? Can you put it on a plane? Can you put it on a plane and then measure that it works? Okay, until you can actually show me you can use an interferometer on a plane, then it doesn't matter. And whenever you do, we'll just change our model anyway. So gotcha, stupid flurf. We got science. So that's really all they can say. That's all. I mean, that's all they can say is deny the linear interferometer measurements or deny the way that they work. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you know what's really interesting though, even though they deny it, obviously, there's still that periodicity that Toby was talking about that Miller measured that matches the sidereal fluctuations are like what Michelson-Gale Pearson measured it as well. So it's literally the same measurement. So you could extrapolate a translational speed from it from the Miller stuff. So it would be like 3,000 miles per hour, 3,000 kilometers an hour relative to the altitude. So you know how it increases at altitude up to 10,000 at Mount Wilson. So it's like that's a pretty big problem for the globe, like a vertical motion gradient that's that's vertical that gets stronger as you get closer to the sky. Like that's the opposite of what their model predicts.
yeah, like here. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, same with the periodicity, right? Like if the preferred directionality, the speed of light is getting faster and slower throughout the day and getting faster and slower throughout the correlation of the equinoxes, then that means that the Earth is spinning, according to them, because they claim that to be the rotational vector. So that would mean that the Earth spins more and less throughout the day, and it matches a periodicity of like, the certain days in August match up in the 1920s to the 2000s, and that the Earth spin matches up that way. And then the same thing with the orbital motion, because it's also the same thing with the periodicity of the motion of the sky of the equinoxes with the sun. So, and the sidereal motion of the sun. And it wasn't just Miller that measured that. It was Miller measured it. Yuri Galev corroborated it with interferometry, but then also Maurice Elias and a lab at Harvard also measured it. And, Elias measured it over 5 years or so. He measured it over periods of months at a time. And it was a daily periodicity that he measured. And he actually measured with the pendulum. It seemed to correlate the most strongly with the moon, but it correlated with the sun and the moon. But yeah, it's the rotational vector thing is crazy because, really, they need to substantiate that. They never will, especially because, like what Alan said, the whole thing about north-south is a really big problem because there's like literally no translation of motion. But if it's a rotational vector, it should be a full circle.
Yeah, what's the rebuttal to that? Hey, Globers, come on, man. What do you got? I'm not going to get to the point where I just act, because at that point I don't even feel right about it. Where I'm like,
they're not coming on, right? It's like, what are we supposed to do other than act like that?
Yeah, and then I'm saying, like, I'm not gonna use my intellect to like truly focus in and try to come up with excuses for them, because they'll actually just start saying them. If you're like, I could maybe create like the best you can do. It'll be fallacious, but like it'll be convincing. I'm not gonna give you like some type of wizardry to actually use on other people. I'm not gonna do it. So like that's all. Like that's as far as I can go. I hope I'm making sense, but like I'm not doing that.
So there's dark matter compression coming from the cosmos, right? And that's why it's faster in the sky.
No, really,
I
what they'll do
I think
is
you mean dark flow. I don't know if they're the same. I think they're a little bit different.
They'll really just talk a lot, and like this is what they would really do, right? They would just be like, well, you have to understand that actually, see, whenever you're looking from a different reference frame, if you understand reference frames, if you actually understand them, then you would know that you wouldn't be detecting this at all because you're in a totally different reference frame. So it's basically like there was no change. But when you talk about the north or south, I can't even come up with anything.
You're good, man. Yeah, it's
I was going to say what they will do is like what we've heard, right? Where people, they'll talk for a long time about relativity in general, right? And they'll just talk about things like covariance or whatever and pretend that if they like describe a principle of relativity that it's answering the question, even though it's not like applicable to the specific question at all. That's what they will do. And then they'll just say that you're not understanding it, and they'll keep saying that. That's the most that you'll get. I'm not going to say any specific names, but if I did, you would know what I'm talking about. But look, who do we have in here? I'm about to start calling them out.
I have a question.
What's up?
Have you ever seen the video of the SpaceX launch or the guy who launched to go like supersonic speed for Red Bull? Have you seen either of those?
The SpaceX launch, like I've documented
no,
multiple
it's not
SpaceX.
and there's been multiple where there's like a camera attached to it the entire time it's launched into orbit. And I'm pretty, like, from the video I've seen, it looks completely legitimate and it appears to show the herb in a spherical form. Have you seen it?
So let's talk about the first. Let's show the first thing that you talked about. You talked about Felix Baumgartner jumps. What you're talking about. Let's talk about that first, and we're gonna move our way up. Okay. Felix Baumgartner. They showed it looked like the Earth was a sphere, and this guy jumped out. Okay. First part of that is there's two parts of that, but let's just say first part of it is that was at 128,000 feet, right? What happened was, this is what factually happened in history. We started sending balloons up around that same height with cameras on it. This is like the flat Earth history. This is what happened. Everyone's talking about how you could see the curvature of the Earth. This guy jumped out from the edge of space, and that's what they called it. It's not space though, right? But anyway, we sent balloons up to see for ourselves, and it was flat. The horizon was flat when we sent balloons up. And we're like, okay, that's nothing like this drastic curvature that they use. So then Neil deGrasse Tyson came out, and only then, by the way, and if you're new to Flat Earth, you may not know, this is the journey that happened. Like, we went and disproved
New donation
it.
from Shane St. Pierre.
We went and disproved it. If I ever pause like that, just trust that the stream is hearing that someone donated. All right, we went and tested it, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson came out, and he gave his little explanation about how he's like, people are probably, it's a little bit misleading what they think happened with Felix Baumgartner, and that they could see the curvature of the Earth, and that he jumped from space. He said he didn't jump from space, and then he uses a beach ball. He said, you're just like 1 millimeter off this beach ball. You would never see the curvature of the Earth from that height, right? We could play the video. It's an old one. So we went and checked it. You don't see it. And admittedly, they used a GoPro, right? And then if you look at the actual video, there's one from inside the capsule, and you can see the horizon's flat. You see the horizon's flat, nothing like the curved shot from outside of it that makes it look like a ball. What does that mean, bro? That means that they intentionally showed fake imagery to the world, told them that a guy was in space, and he wasn't even close. He was like nowhere close to the Kármán line at 62 miles, not even halfway there. Lied and called it a space jump, and then showed them a GoPro shot where it looked like the Earth was a ball.
Well, I mean, it's more than just a shot, isn't it? There's like a video. There's several frames. But either way,
bro, did you not hear anything? They used a GoPro. There's another shot from inside the capsule where the horizon's flat. So objectively, the curvature that you're seeing can't be correct because another camera is showing it being flat. Okay, and then your own side, Neil deGrasse Tyson, came out and then said, a lot of people think that you could see the curvature of the Earth. No, they used a fisheye GoPro lens, which makes it look like it's curved. This is what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, right? And you would only be 1 millimeter off this beach ball. You never see the curve of the Earth from that height. We sent balloons up that high. You don't see the curve of the Earth. Okay,
so you think they intentionally skewed it, or you just think the way the lens was, is what made it look curved?
I can't know their intention or motive, but yes, I think that they just tried to show the whole world that when you looked at it, you just thought, man, this dude's like in space, sees the Earth's a ball, and then jumps down. That's crazy, and it was pretty cool. But I think it was probably intentionally deceptive. Who knows? I don't know their motivation. All I know is we debunked it. We sent balloons up there, saw that wasn't what it looks like at all. Then the mainstream came out and said, oh, that wasn't the actual curve of the Earth. They used a fisheye lens, just made it look like that. You wouldn't be very high off the Earth. You wouldn't be able to see the curve of the Earth. And then as it applies to this, which is, the motion thing, like this dude fell from 128,000 feet and just like landed where he started. So like,
fair enough.
How do you think that works? Think about that. Think about it though. If I'm 128,000 feet up in the air and then I jump out, you remember it took like many minutes for him to get all the way down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the Earth spinning underneath him while he was falling?
Like, are you visually able to see it? Is that what you're asking?
I'm saying, like, You agree they say the
I
Earth
don't
is
know, though.
spinning. So if I jump out and start falling down, is the Earth going to be moving underneath me?
I would imagine so.
But then how would you land right where you started?
Unless you just, well, I don't really know all the science behind this. I'm on a very basic level.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. They claim that the air all moves with the Earth magically, and but actually it doesn't. Even according to them, it's lagged. We won't get into all that. It lags behind. It would violate the law of conservation of energy and momentum for it not to do that. Then they claim there's a Coriolis anyway. So they would just say that like it's too negligible to notice because the air moves with the Earth. And you can't. It looks like it's stationary. You can go up 120,000 feet, jump down, land back where you started, but I promise the Earth was spinning underneath you. Anyway, and so then you talked about like a SpaceX launch, and you said that obviously none of this is proving anything because they're just cameras, and we've proven that you can use a fisheye lens to make it look like it's a ball. We've sent up high altitude balloons. You can send one up, right, that has not a fisheye lens, and the horizon looks way more flat than the other one. That proves that you can make it look like a ball when it's not one, right? Anyway, the SpaceX launch, they don't show continually till they get up into orbit. It always cuts out. Every single time it cuts out. And switches to some other shot. They've never shown one like actually continuous and then coming back into the atmosphere or anything. It always cuts out, just shows you like looking straight down.
There's one video I saw where it seems to be fully continuous, and that's the only one I've seen. But yeah, I agree. I have seen a lot where it only shows the initial launch and then it shows them in orbit. But this one, from what I'm looking at, it shows the entire thing. But like
for sure cut out and switched. But like, do you understand that fisheye lens makes like? Yeah. Okay, so then we can't trust that as verification.
They all have fisheye lenses, like they're
all cameras that exist in the world have convex lenses. So like if you are looking down at all, it's going to impose curvature. But the fisheye lens is much more drastic. So if they're really 60 miles up, you can eat. The point is that it can easily be faked. They could literally just put that in front of a green screen anyway. Like SpaceX is the same people that say they put a car in space.
The thing with the SpaceX launches is there's so many. Like
I've documented them myself in person multiple times.
Yeah,
I've videoed them myself
on each one. That's why I think it lends some credibility.
The first one of these I looked up definitely is using a fisheye lens, like without a doubt. It goes up, it turns sideways, but when you can tell when it's going up with the way that the ground warps away, that it's a fisheye lens. And so then when it goes up sideways, there's like a little bit of a warping to the horizon, but that would be from the fisheye lens for sure.
And the one way to prove the fisheye lens thing is like if you can see where when they take off, you'll see the horizon kind of curved. At the ground, the Earth is curving.
Yep, that's exactly how you could tell on this one. That it like kind of like warps like in a not perfect way. It kind of like warps away, almost like in a weird curved fashion that doesn't look natural.
And just to remind everyone that if anyone forgot, these are the same people who claim to have done this. I'm sharing the screen now. The same people who claimed. Oh, it doesn't even show it here. The same people that claimed that they sent a car into space, bro. This right here.
Yeah, also a mouse.
Complex, can you see this?
It's not showing your screen at the moment.
If that really went out there, a mouse caught a ride too.
Okay, just to clarify, I'm showing it in the Discord, but I'll also show it on the stream. Just a second.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, I can see it.
It's the first mouse in space.
Bro, like they said that this is the same company that claimed that they did this, bro.
Yeah, I mean that particular image doesn't look real to me.
Where's
so if SpaceX, if they were to say do even one thing fake, then we obviously can't trust anything that they say, right?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, it does.
What? They're faking a car in space.
Not anything they have to say, but I would take it. More things they say with a grain of salt.
You know what Elon Musk said about this? You're pretty new to this subject, huh? Do you know what Elon Musk said about this?
No.
Said, you know it's real because it looks so fake. Literally. So we said.
I would say I currently would think the Earth is a globe, but I've been watching a lot of your debates, and I find it pretty bizarre how no one's able to really debunk anything you say. So that's why I'm asking questions, because
That's cool.
Curious about it.
Well, cool, man.
But I did have another question. Like, do you think that all the other planetary bodies are like globes essentially? It's like spherical.
Well, I don't think that there are other planets, meaning that the Earth is one, and then there are other things like the Earth. I think that the quote-unquote planets are wandering stars. I think that there's stars that are just closer, and you can see them better, and that's what planet means. It means plane, wandering star. But they do look like spherical, but really they look like circles. But think about this. If I shine a really bright light, if it's just something just lighting up, right? It's a light. And then I go really far away from it, it's going to look like an orb, like a circle or a sphere, right? Because it has a radius of light. So also in addition, it's like, these are pretty basic stuff. It's like, so if I walked up to a pool table, grabbed a pool ball, and I was like, hey, look, this is a ball. That means the table must be a ball. If I point at the light bulb, I'm like, hey, look at that light bulb. That means the ground's a light bulb, right? Like, it doesn't matter if there were spheres in the sky. It doesn't mean that we're one. And this is the most important part. Everything in the sky moves around the Earth. Everything moves around us, which means the Earth is in the center, right? So from our position, the Earth's in the center. So it's the only thing there. It's a unique position. There is no other central position. We're the only thing. So that means that nothing is like the Earth. It's the only thing in the middle. So it would actually be illogical to think that it should be like anything else we see in the sky when actually everything's moving around it, right? So if it's in the middle, it's unique. It shouldn't.
How do you account for like asteroids and stuff like that then? Like that we know come into Earth from, well, I mean, I guess they could have come from Earth and then came back into Earth, but do you have any idea about that?
Yeah. And I will answer a couple more of your questions, and then I'm going to make sure we get back to the topic, but I can tell you're being good faith. So first of all, let's go through some things. The meteorite was proposed in a science fiction book before it was ever even allegedly seen. Okay. And then they claim that there are giant craters on the Earth that were from meteors that hit the ground. But in reality, there's not any rock debris in any of them. They all have like these perfect, like 90 degree, like as if it got hit perfectly at 9 degrees, right? It's like perfect circles. Instead of there's no where's the meteor that hit and skid across the ground, right?
Well, doesn't it vaporize and there's like trace minerals of it everywhere?
There are no trace. No. They say that all the evidence vaporizes. So, and then also they claim that any rock you see in space, you can find them on Earth anyway. So, long story short, dude, you don't actually see giant rocks fall from the sky. We see meteor showers and we see shooting stars, right? But, you know, that's
so
just...
You don't think that's actual, like, physical matter then?
I don't. It could be, but I don't think so. Okay. Like, there's something called sporadic meteors, and they're reoccurring. They're cyclical, and they come from the same, like, 6 radiant sources in the sky. I mean, there's a specific area in the sky that these meteor showers come from, and they keep doing it over and over and over and over. How does that work? I thought it was random rocks flying through space, and we randomly see them. Why would we see, like, every year we see them happen in the same spot? Yeah.
Well, I guess according to your model, this probably wouldn't make sense, but like from the explanation I would give is because we're rotating throughout the galaxy and our solar body like collides with a meteor, like a dust ring or whatever, and that's what we're seeing, and it happens on a cyclical sort.
And wouldn't we see it in different places in the sky though? Because then we're to come back around and everything's been moving since the last time we were there. Here's another thing. So like when it comes to shooting stars or meteor showers or anything, according to like the globe, there are stars underneath your feet right now, right? Like the Earth is just swimming in a sea of stars. There's stars in all directions above you and below you. So we should see shooting stars coming up from the horizon. We should see meteor showers coming up from the horizon. On a flat Earth, they're just above us. So we're just going to see them coming from above us. No one has ever documented a shooting star or meteor coming straight up from the horizon. Ever.
That is pretty interesting. I never really thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been documented. You know that if you Google how often are there shooting stars, it says on a clear night you can see a shooting star every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes in each location throughout all over the earth, everywhere on the earth, for all the history of the earth, no one's ever documented that. So I think that's pretty wild. But let's do this, dude. Instead of, I know you have a bunch of questions. You seem like you're being in good faith. I encourage you. Are you new to this Discord?
Yeah, I just joined it.
All right, this is a perfect place for you to be, man. I will tell you there are going to be people that try to clamp on you and brainwash you into the globe, but there are a lot of people here that will answer all of your questions, bro, right? This is the perfect place to be. But just for the show, because almost everyone here has heard all of these basic stuff, let's just stay on the subject. But you can learn about that as well, right? So
thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, no big deal, bro. You can stay, you can still talk, whatever. I just don't want the show to be like that's one of my rules. So let's just go through the basics. We see like the sun move throughout the day, right? We see the sun move in the sky every day, right? And so it's over our head at noon, then it sets, then it rises, head at noon, sets, right? Okay, they say it's because the earth is spinning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're trying to figure out if that's true. Long story short. So obviously you've never felt the earth spinning. I think I can make this like a productive and get us back on the rails. You've never felt the earth spinning. No one's ever seen the earth spinning. No one's ever measured the earth spinning. We do everything as if the earth is not spinning. But they're claiming that it is spinning. They're claiming it's so big you just can't tell. So we're trying to find evidence, and that's the question of the day. If we're actually tilted on an axis, wobbling, spinning, revolving around the sun's dragging us through the galaxy at 500,000 miles an hour, and then our galaxy is going through the universe at 1.2 million miles an hour. There should be some type of evidence of that. We should have measured it with interferometry. We should be able to measure that the Earth is moving, right? But we can't. It's never been measured. So that's kind of where we are. We're trying to figure out the motion. I want to get it back on the subject, but if you have anything to say, but I guess you're not in a position where you're going to try to defend the globe, to be fair. But I just want to make sure that we kind of get back on the rails here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Are there any other? But yeah, stay in this Discord, bro. Ask any questions that you have. They're here 24/7, and people will answer all your questions, bro. Are there any Globers that are actually going to come answer the question? Do you guys have any exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? That's the question. And if we need to pull the baller flat earthers back out, we can. Okay, look. I see Shane's up here. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? Yo, I'm actually impressed by Baller Toby and Baller Allen. I didn't know that they were the best ballers I've ever met.
Yeah, man. Allen's even been working on his accent, his baller accent.
Yeah, I saw that came out. The question of motion has forever been used against us, and now that we're trying to sit up here and explain it, no one wants to take it back. That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that they're not like chomping at the bit to try to tell us how the Earth is moving? What happened?
What happened to Thanks Bob? Anyone want to throw a Thanks Bob? Anyone? Haven't heard it in a while.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I just want to keep it where we keep it somewhat informative. Shout out to the YouTube. Where I'm gonna check the donations. I guess I'll do that again. I'll just check the donations. Man, I don't see. There are some ballers in here, but none of them are gonna actually step up to the plate. Apparently.
Maybe if we call them out a little bit.
Invite sent to whoever's got their hand up here. Who else do we got? Yeah, we could call them out, I guess.
Matthew Learn seems like he might be particularly useful.
This may be Matthew, you want to jump on the stage, bro, and have a talk with us about the motion of the Earth? Let's go.
Perfect, actually.
Hey, how's it going?
What up, brother?
Doing well. Good to hear from you.
So, I don't know how long you've been here, but so we have a question of the day every episode, and our question today is: do you have any exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? And we can't seem to get any Globe Earth proponent to give us some evidence that the Earth is actually moving.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you meant by exclusive evidence. What What does that mean?
That it can only be explained by the Earth moving.
I would say no, I don't, because everything I would say you could explain by everything rotating around the Earth, which is what they thought, 600 years ago.
That is correct, Matthew. Check him out. That is the honest globe Earth position. So globe Earth.
I could say something like it seems more likely that the Earth is turning than that everything else is rotating around it. If you come up with distances that seem far-fetched, like if the stars really are really far away, it seems unlikely that they're speeding around in this huge circle every 24 hours or 23 hours and 56 minutes. So that would be more like a probabilistic thing. It's more likely that the Earth is turning than the stars are moving if the stars are very far away.
Sure, and I could just as easily say that it's much more likely that the reason that it looks like everything's moving around the Earth is because everything's moving around the Earth.
Yeah, and it would depend on the distances to see how likely that scenario is.
Yeah, we can't even verify the distances, but I will tell you that it's actually we're not even on the same footing. Let's see who wants to take this one. I know we got Shane up here, Alan up here, Toby up here. But I invoked the gyroscope. Do one of you guys want to succinctly summarize the refutation of it, just so people know? Supposedly the ring laser gyroscope, which is engineered off the Sagnac effect, right? Which is basically using interferometry, so cross patterns of lasers to give you an interference pattern, because if there's motion, then it causes the light to interfere because one light beam had to take a longer path because there's movement. And so it can detect the circular motion with displacement. So we get these really precise measurements of interference of the light. And so there's something called the Sagnac effect. And of course, the guy who discovered it, Sagnac, said it was the vortex in the ether. But the current globe paradigm claims that that's because the Earth is spinning underneath the light, and that's what causes it to have an interference pattern. So I'm going to toss that over. That was the first one I had to step in and invoke as if I was a glober, which, yeah, we know that the Earth is spinning because, thanks, Bob, we can detect 15 degrees per hour. And that's exactly what the globe predicts. The globe predicts 15 degrees per hour. The ring laser gyros actually measure that. So we can measure the sidereal motion, but actually specifically that the Earth is spinning, making the stars look like they're spinning 15 degrees per hour. So does anybody on here want to succinctly recap the refutation of that? And then I'll just go on down their list since they're afraid to do it. You're muted, Toby.
The first thing I would ask, I would mention what I mentioned earlier, which I would ask specifically which measurement they're looking at, because you really need to look at whatever they're going to invoke, because everything that's going to be invoked is going to have a different trick, essentially. Like LIGO, they're going to use a convolutional neural network to filter everything through their relativistic predictions. In 2017, when they went to use resonance to measure that rotation, they used an error-weighted regression model so that they could throw out the errors related to the things that were not within the margin of error for relativistic predictions, which specifically was daily variations and seasonal fluctuations, which is going back to what Miller measured. But like with the ring laser gyro, I'm assuming they would be referring to Bob. And in the case of Bob's measurements, I do have the data, and I did load them up and do a little bit of analysis and look at other analysis that's been done on it. And I will say the data is a little bit messy, but the important thing with that specifically, and that's why I say you really I would need to know which measurement they would be referring to. And with Bob, it's a perfect illustration of how a documentary was used to manipulate people's emotion and play on people's emotions and maliciously edit to make something look different than what really had happened, because Bob took a ton of measurements at altitude. And just the fact that they would edit that out, they would edit out the thing about him taking the measurements at altitude should really make you think. And so the question I asked, if someone were to bring Bob's specific ring laser gyro measurements, would be, okay, 15 degrees per hour, but that's relative to what temperature? That's relevant to what pressure? That's relevant to what altitude? And that's relevant to what latitude? Because you need to have all those things factored in. And so if anyone can't answer all those questions, the fact that the temperature and the pressure are going to make it so it's not 15 degrees per hour, well, then what are you even measuring? You need to know, how your concrete measurement is, meeting reality, so to say. And I would say I would defer everybody, if anyone has questions about Bob's measurements. Man of Stone is doing a really in-depth analysis on that, and he has encouraged us to await his conclusion of his analysis. But he seems to be kind of seeing a lot of the same things of what I'm pointing out here. And so I am kind of waiting for that. I'm looking forward to that. But it's a lot more complicated than people want it to be. And the gyroscope is convenient because it's in a coil. It's in a circle, right? And so they can claim it's purely a rotational vector, and they can ignore the orthogonal problem that I was pointing out earlier, with the fact that and that Alan's brought up, which is the fact that if it's a rotation, if it's truly just purely a rotational vector, then there shouldn't be a difference between north, south, or east and west, and then no difference whatsoever between north, south. Like, it's faster one way, east-west, and slower the other way, east-west, but then there's just no change north-south. So that's not what a rotational vector looks like. That's a linear vector. And if it's a linear vector, well, then what's going on? Because if it's a linear vector, one, we should have been able to measure. I mean, really, this whole thing about the rotational and versus linear vector is just by design, getting us lost in the weeds anyways, because we're just measuring a fringe shift proportional to a flux of ether, right? Or like a proportional velocity of of the medium that the light wave is inducting through, right? So yeah, the gyroscope thing, like, you really just have to get specific with them and kind of, like, unfortunately kind of expose the fact that they probably don't really know what they're talking about, and they're just being manipulated by a documentary. That, like, I would defer them to what Bob actually had to say about it. Like, maybe you should go listen to what Bob, before you say anything else, maybe for starters, go listen to what Bob had to say, because Bob took a bunch of other measurements that they didn't include in the film. So I would start there. And then if you really want to know, I would go looking for Bob's data, and I would wait for Man of Stone to come out with his analysis, but I would just step back and be like, okay, maybe that's not where I should go to try and make an assertion about Earth rotation. They try to use they try to use LIGO. Really, the Michelson-Gill-Pearson was the big measurement of Earth rotation, but that's orthogonal, so doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think real fast that would be cool to point out is, like, for anyone that's kind of new to the subject, really think about this, right? So Stephen Hawking did this documentary, and they supposedly proved the Earth is a ball, and in it they showed that they were going to look at a helicopter in the distance and show that it was hidden by the curvature of the Earth. And so they showed before and after, and what we found out was that the scenes are exactly the same water moving in the same way, with the same waves, with the same patches on the dirt, with the same movement on the dirt, with the same bird flying across the scene at the same time. So provably, it's irrefutable. You can prove that they faked that, and they actually photoshopped a helicopter in it. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because they did the same thing on National Geographic when they proved the curve with an optical illusion and claimed that it went behind the Earth's curvature, like this big, large sign on a boat. But actually the horizon was still behind the boat, and they lied, and they claimed that there was an extra stripe at the bottom that was hidden, but there wasn't an extra stripe there. They lied. And then with the Netflix documentary, they lied about Jaren's thing, and then the actual what the actual results were and what actually led up to it. And then they lied about Bob, and they cut out all of the actual measurements that he did after that, right? That can't be explained on a globe because they can't be changing in altitude. Best case scenario, they have to claim that the measurements are unreliable because other things are affecting them. They definitely can't say thanks Bob as if he proved it, because using the same exact methodology, he showed that that isn't the case, right? Because he went to a higher altitude, the same latitude, got different things. They cut all that out. And the point I'm making there is, how come, if the Earth is a globe for sure and it's so definitive, we also talked about another one, Felix Baumgartner. They showed that it looked like the Earth was a ball at 120,000 feet using a fisheye lens, claimed to be at the edge of space, when actually he was nowhere close to space, and that the Earth wasn't curving like that at all in reality. So those 5 examples of mainstream propaganda that they showed the world to claim to verify that the Earth was a spinning globe, and they intentionally and deceptively lied, provably, in every single one of them, just like the most famous 24-hour sun video in Antarctica was proven to be edited. Then they end up coming out admitting that it was edited and that they lied, and it wasn't 24 hours. So people always want to say, like, oh, the Earth is flat. Why would they lie? Why would they lie? If the Earth is so provably a globe, why is everything they're showing us actually faked? And this is just a fact. None of the things I just said can be disputed at all. It's a fact that all those things are faked. It's objectively a fact, right? I mean, you can prove every single one of the things I just said are faked or misleading and deceptive, right? And what we normally get from globe earthers are, yeah, so what, but we didn't do that, or so what, the Earth still is a globe. That isn't the point. The point is that they're deceiving the mainstream masses with propaganda on purpose. So why would they have to lie to prove the Earth's a globe? So, and I'm saying all that to add more context to what happened with the Bob measurement. And what we're trying to say is, if the Earth is a ball and you put a ring laser gyro in there and it's supposedly detecting rotation of the Earth, if you go at a different altitude, the measurement should stay the same. No matter how high you go, if you're at the same latitude, you'll be detecting the same angular motion underneath you, right? Use the cosine of your latitude, you're going to get the same measurement. You're going to get the 15 degrees per hour no matter where you are. It can't change with altitude. But that is not what was observed. That's not what's been observed with a lot of other ring laser gyros. And so, long story short, they don't have the ring laser gyro, and that's why not one globe earther will come up here and defend it. Why not one globe earther will come up here and claim that they have exclusive evidence the Earth is moving and bring up that ring laser gyroscope. And they've been talking about it for years now. If you Google it, that'll be the number one. But none of them can come on this panel and defend it. I promise. Not even close. They won't even get close to defending it. They will get absolutely destroyed and blown out of the water, and it'll backfire and actually disprove the claim that the Earth is rotating. Okay, and so it sucks because I had to put my glasses on and pretend to be a baller because you guys can't defend it. I thought Flyers was stupid. I thought Flyers was dying. So, and that was like a bit of a rant, but very succinctly, we showed that not only does it not prove the Earth is rotating, it proves that the Earth is not rotating, causing the measurement. Right? That's what it proves. It proves that they claim that it measures the Earth's rotation, and you can actually prove it is not detecting Earth rotation. It's geometrically and physically impossible to be doing that. So that's rough. I mean, I don't know. So if anyone has anything else they want to throw in on that?
Yeah, just a question.
Can I come in?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, Austin. I wanted to ask you something. I'm not sure if can we talk about on a different subject, or I mean on flat Earth, but I think you were talking about can we change the subject? Is that
I had a quick question about ring laser gyroscope.
Okay. No, in the sense of I wanted to talk about on the flat Earth, you got the sun and the moon, right? They go. I think they in the mainstream flat Earth model, they circle above the flat Earth, right? I believe there's in terms of with the flat Earth and the dome. Mm-hmm. But one thing I've had some trouble with is the rising and the setting of the sun, right? In the sense, like I wanted to ask you, how watertight is that in sense of like it being perpetually above us? I have a maybe I have a different belief, but I just wanted to ask you, how watertight scientifically to you would you say that is?
Well, that's what all the evidence shows, is that the sun is local and moving above us, and that's why it's hotter when it's closer to us. It moves in and out with the analemma, and we've actually documented that it disappears above the horizon. It disappears above the horizon, therefore proving that the sun absolutely disappears into the distance, not behind anything physical. They claim that the sun would be seen forever on a flat Earth. That's provably not true because we've seen it disappear into the sky, right? And of course, if you just look at things like Rayleigh's criteria, if you're talking about how like scientifically tight it is, well, you would actually look at the propagation and reception angles of the sun, and specifically here, the bottom of the sun up. You would look at the propagation and reception angles relative to the resolution angle of whatever optics is actually detecting the sun, and you'll see that once it falls below once the reception and propagation angles fall below the resolution angle, it begins to no longer be visible, and that would happen bottom up because the viewing angle to the bottom is the lowest. And so that's exactly what we would expect to see. We've proven it doesn't just disappear behind any physical obstruction because it disappears above the horizon. Shout out to Rakia Life. He actually has a video of that. And I will say, I do want to stay on subject. And then once we can, what I think we'll do now is to make it a little bit more efficient is I'm going to run through the Glober, and I'm going to let Matthew jump into, but I'm going to run through the Glober explanations because the Globers are seemingly afraid to jump on and claim them with their chest. So we'll go through them, and then if we have like more of an open panel vibe after that, that's cool. And I'm also take this time to go ahead and catch up on the super chats. What's up, bro?
No, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, bro. And if we have some time, we can keep talking about stuff more. But real fast. So we have my boy. There was a problem signed up for the fire tier. So hey, welcome to the Misfits. Thank you so much for joining. It's gonna be lit. Adam, thank you for signing up for Air, brother. The 4th tier Air, my boy Adam. Thanks for signing up. Welcome to the Misfits, and thanks for all the support that you've been giving the channel for a while now, bro. So welcome to the Misfits. My boy Shane St. Pierre. Shout out to Alan and Toby, 2 relative newcomers to our community who have already made such monumental contributions to our community. They will inspire more legends to join the fight. Hey, true that, man. True that. And shout out to Shane St. Pierre as well. Same situation with you. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Toby, what's up?
No, I was just gonna say, man, Shane was busy with things for a bit, but he's been back around recently, and boy, oh boy, is it nice to have him around and have his brain around. And he just did a fantastic presentation about reciprocal zenith angles and the arc of the parallel and optics yesterday over at Ether Cosmology, and it was really fantastic. Yeah, I'm just really excited to see what other type of stuff he's going to be presenting in the days to come.
Well, times like this, when we face the community, right, and everyone looks in, is when people decide to take the plunge and join the fight, and to look into some of it themselves. And pretty soon you end up here with us talking about the same things from the same perspective. So everyone should take the plunge.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so shout out to you 3 specifically. Yeah, we're like this little group, and we do all this research, and like I always have a million things going on, but I know I can dip off and check in with them, and they're going to have like something awesome that they found. And they're reading through all these PDFs and these like this forbidden science that's being hidden, and we're figuring out the true nature of where we are, and we're hoping to inspire the younger generations and kind of give them whatever we've been able to find, so they're able to keep looking into the truth of where we live. It isn't impressive, of course, to repeat just like propaganda talking points that have been disproven that we learned when we were in middle school, like saying mass attracts mass and stuff like that is just retarded. So we're gonna have a new generation of people that think for themselves. And then people like you guys are inspiring them. And so, yeah, shout out to you guys, and go show them some love. You got Ether Cosmology on YouTube. You got Space Audits, Alan Space Audits on YouTube as well. And then you have Anti-Disinformation. Is that correct? What are your socials?
I usually just give the markdown links, and Toby made a nice redirect, so I can just say adl.place.
adl.place if you want to go find my boy Shane St. Pierre's social media as well. And then let me, by the way, Smurf is showing what we were talking about, where the sun's disappearing above the horizon. So I got it showing to the stream. There it goes. That proves that the sun disappears into the sky. It doesn't just disappear from behind a physical location. And we'll watch it again if you don't mind, Smurf. Keep playing it. Don Trump, thank you for the donation. Witsit, how do you feel about how MDD slants the conversation? I always see the thumbnail depict flat earthers in a condescending way, as well as when the globe position is struggling, I see the modern day debate operator step in and help. It's to the point where I can't even stand these guys. Thanks, bro. I do think that the moderators are typically biased. The Globers get away with way more interruptions, way more fallacies, way more bad faith techniques, etc. I don't know about the thumbnails too much. I don't care. I think the idea is just to get people to click on it. But at the same time, you gotta tip your hat to MTD in the sense that they have not shied away from housing that conversation for many years now. And now, like my last debate, we stayed up over like 1,200, and we're winning the polls on that channel now. Right, where back in the day you'd win like 7% or 10%. Now it's like 55, 60% are saying that the flat earther won the debate. You get over 1,000 people watching live. There are some flat earth debates on there that have over 100,000 views. So I think that it's a net positive, and I still shout out the channel for doing that. And that's just kind of the territory that comes with FE is like the globe earthers are able to just hand wave dismiss, gaslight, chant, right, dog whistle, just repeat archaic, rudimentary like talking points and use a bunch of fallacies. And people want it to be true so much that they get away with it. It is what it is. You got to know what you're going into. It's fighting for the truth isn't always the easiest thing to do. But thank you for the super chat and the question. And then shout out to my boy Rakia Life. Thank you for the $20 tip. Super fluid, super fluid, super fluid. Yeah, man. Rakia Life stole my idea that there may be superfluid above us. I've been saying it for years, and this guy just stole it and now claims it. But no, all jokes aside, Rakia Life's been trying to tell everyone that he thinks there's superfluid above us for a long time. But yeah, I think it is definitely viable. It would have no viscosity, which is resistance to flow, and so things can move perpetually within it. And even certain parts of mainstream cosmology is trying to absorb that to fix the dark matter problem. So yeah, it's very interesting. It seems like, oh my gosh, were the scriptures somehow true? And it said that there was like fluid above us. Okay, I know that was a big slip off for a second. And if anyone donates, we'll catch up with you guys again. Shout out to all the Misfits. I'll say this one more time. We're launching like a new little Misfit social media. Whoever signs up under here for memberships, you're going to be brought into the club over there, and it's going to be dope. We'll have all kinds of exclusive streams, exclusive merch, etc., and you get certain perks based on whichever tier you are. And we'll pull the patrons over into the Misfits community as well, and it'll also be on an app. And you'll have all kinds of access to information, all kinds of true Earth information, the stuff we cover in the streams, etc. And obviously, trolls will not be in there. So,
Witsit, where's that sun going in that video?
Away from you.
If I can make a comment, Smurfs play in my video. That is at sea level. That's not in the high mountain, dry areas. That can be taken with drones more often. This is a shot I got of the sun fading into the horizon, as I say everything does. From sea level. I'm actually on a back bay where I take a lot of sunset pictures. I also have a boat that goes into the horizon, which is what we say happens. But it's all about how we see into the distance, and the light going away from us, how it acts. So good job, Witsit.
Witsit, if that's going away from us, why are we not seeing the whole object and its wholeness? Going away from us as a whole. Why is it disappearing bottom up?
Well, I just explained that, which is that the reception and propagation angles at the bottom of the sun are smaller than the ones higher up due to the relative viewing angle. And whenever the propagation and reception angles fall below the resolution angle of whatever optics that you're using, it becomes no longer resolvable, i.e. disappears.
Okay. Well, hold on, because he said a lot. If you're talking about propagation angles, so if I was at the correct distance, obvious opposite of that. So say I was on the Earth on the other side of that sun, that on the different propagation angle. What would I be seeing? Would that sun be going down, or where would it be coming from? On the opposite side of that sun, there has to be some Earth. So what is the other person seeing when that sun is happening?
They would see the sun eventually come into view, right? And of course, you'd have to be super far away.
But from where though? From where?
Dude, I will kick you off of the stream so fast, dude. You're not gonna start interrupting and trying to take over the stream. I know how you behave. This is my YouTube live stream. We're not going to do it. Okay. So I just answered your question. It was a ridiculous question. And the actual point of this video is that it proves that the sun doesn't only disappear because it allegedly goes behind some curve of the earth blocking it. It proves that the sun can disappear, and from the bottom up, above the horizon, which means that it objectively can disappear into the distance. So everyone claiming that the sun can't just disappear because it's going away from you have been disproven by this video. As you clearly see, the sun is disappearing.
First of all, I agree. I agree with the flat Earth. I believe that the Earth is flat, and definitely, like but I do like what you're saying is probable. Like it's a probable explanation for this, right? But for example, like I think you shared it. I think you and Jeranism were discussing like when you have the mountain and then you had it casting a shadow on the underside of the what it was, the underside of a carpet of clouds. But yeah, so obviously that tells us that the light is shining from below and significantly below the cloud cover, right? And there could be, and I think you did have an explanation for it, but I that's where I wanted to say, like, whether it could be the only explanation. Like my belief, like I believe that the sun actually sets into the earth, right? And that would pose some probably problems for the mainstream flat Earth model, right, or whatever the consensus is at the moment. But I've always had a problem with that. I've always had a problem with the sun's rising and setting. And obviously, this sounds probably crazy, more crazy to some of the Globers here, but that's where I am at the moment, because I've always said, like, it's not that to me. I'm not as knowledgeable as you, Austin. But to me, generally, that just doesn't. It's not watertight at the moment for me. And because from the beliefs angle where I'm coming from, obviously from scripture as well, like what we believe, is that there is verses that literally say that the sun actually rises and sets from the earth, and so this is where I actually wanted to perhaps discuss that with you a bit more.
I'd be down to talk about it maybe in the future. I don't think that for sure. I think you'd have to. Then like, where would it be doing that physically, and how would you ever observe it? Would you see it? Where is it? Et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think that this definitely proves that the sun can disappear in the distance. Just because it's getting far enough away from you, it disappears into the sky, it disappears into the distance. And it makes sense that it normally looks like it's setting on the horizon, because the horizon is just an optical location. It's a vanishing point. You can't see any further. And as the ground appears to rise up and converge to the sky, that's basically your limit of how far you can see over the ground. And then the sun is going beyond that. So it's going to, of course, disappear behind that. But I do want to talk about motion, and I know that the globe earthers love to think that, I know you're not doing that, but the globe earthers, the only time they'll come in here, they want to talk about something like the sunset. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm saying that's not specifically what this is about. I want to make sure that when someone comes back and watches the show, that they can at least hear the list of the alleged globe earth evidences for motion. And so we got to get through them. The first one is supposedly a ring laser gyro detecting the spin of the earth. Okay, we've pointed out that it actually is not the case. That is using the Sadek effect with interferometry. We've shown that detection actually changes with altitude. It gets greater with altitude. Okay, so that's a major problem for a globe Earth model. It would have to stay the same no matter what altitude it is. If you're at the same latitude, if it's actually a ball that's spinning causing it. Okay, that's a major problem for the globe. That debunks the claim that the ring laser gyro is detecting the spin of the Earth. And if a glober wants to step in and try to defend the motion of the Earth with any specific evidence, including the ring laser gyro, then that's what can go on. That's what this is about. That's what this stream's about. We have a panel of people here that will talk to you. Just don't interrupt. Be respectful. And name calling and interrupting and stuff's not.
Oh yeah, I still have.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name call. I have a. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my question is, okay, fine. If it's not the rotation of the Earth causing 15 degrees or plus or minus, at different altitudes or something, my simple question is, what is causing it? Because you would expect, if you pick up a ring laser gyroscope and turn around halfway, it reads 180 degrees. But if you set it on the table for a while, you would expect it just to show zero. And if it's not showing zero, why isn't it?
Okay, well, I think a good thing to do is cover some basic logic here for starters, okay? So let's cover some logic. So falsification is independent of replacement. And people get very frustrated when I say that because they just hear, oh, he's not going to answer my question. But if anyone's ever actually listened to me, they know I always end up answering the question to the best of my ability, even if I have to speculate. But it's important to acknowledge this fact, right? And again, it's the analogy is if I go into my mom's closet and I find adoption papers, and it turns out that I was born in a hospital, and then my parents adopted me immediately. They took pictures of me wrapped up as an infant in the hospital. I was given to them. I have their last name. They raised me my whole life. I had no idea I was adopted, but I've seen the paternity test. I saw the DNA test of my who I thought was my dad and my paternity test. I am adopted. Those are not my real parents, but it doesn't say who my real parents are. If I go up to my friend and say, bro, you'll never believe this. My whole life is a lie. I'm actually adopted. Those aren't my biological parents. And then he says, what? There's no way. Everyone knows those are your parents. I'm like, no, they're literally not. Here's the evidence. They're not my parents. What, you think that the church and the school and the community's all lying about how they're your parents? No, they also believe the lie. They believe they're my parents, but they're not. Here's the adoption papers and the physical evidence proving that they're not my parents. If you then responded with, wait, but then who are your parents? And I said, I don't know yet, man. I'm trying to figure that out. I just found out that they're not my parents. If you then said, okay, well, I'm not going to believe those aren't your parents until you can replace them with your real parents, that would be ridiculous, right? Obviously, we falsified that they're my biological parents, and that stands by itself. It's independent of anything else. The evidence falsified the claim that they're my parents. They're not. And if I end up finding out who they really are or what really is going on, that's cool. And sure, we should try to figure it out. But if I am not able to figure it out, or in the meantime, the fact that they're not my parents doesn't change. That also applies to this right here. Well, then what would be causing it? I mean, yeah, that can be a good faith question. It's a logical next question. It's like, well, we are detecting something. What's going on? That's cool. But I'm just making a point that what I stated was it cannot be the spin of a globe because they claim it detects 15 degrees per hour because the Earth is spinning underneath it. That means at every latitude, you're going to get a specific fringe shift because there's a globe rotating underneath it, and you take the cosine of the latitude like you do with the pendulum. You're able to then determine supposedly like the rotation of the globe. But if I was to go higher and higher and higher above that globe, but stay at the same latitude, the reading should say the same because there's the same angular displacement on the sphere. Even if I get higher, the angle doesn't change because I'm on a sphere. So it should stay the same, but what we proved is that it changes with altitude. So it can't be that. It can't be the spin of the Earth. So the claim that the ring laser gyro detects the spin of the Earth has been falsified. It's like the biological parents. It's been falsified. Now, obviously, we would say that it's not a coincidence that you're able to make a measurement that's in line with the spin of the sky, right? And as you get higher, getting closer to the spin of the sky, it's as if there is some type of medium that's drifting as it all spins around us, and then you can detect that with light, right? And if someone wants to argue that it is still a sphere that's spinning, they have to address the point, which is that it changes with altitude. How does that work on a sphere? And then Alan and Toby asked a different question, right? And so if you guys want to get into the north to south discrepancy or whatever, that's cool. Just you have to defend it instead of asking me what else it could be.
Gravity.
Yeah,
Gravity.
I like your example for the independent. Falsification is independent replacement. That's a really good way of describing it with the adoption papers. Do you know? Yep. I haven't looked into Bob's info. Do you know how much difference it made with the altitude? 15 degrees. Plus
he got anywhere between 1 and 2 degrees. He got over a degree. But even without Bob, it's been done with like much more precise measurements, like Dayton Miller and even 21st century measurements. But yeah, like over a degree. And if Toby and Alan want to jump in at any point in time here, they can. Rob Noxious, I see you're saying something. As long as you said something about gravity, I don't see how that's relevant. As long as you want to stay on the subject, where the question of the day is, do we have any, let me pop back up. Can you provide exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? That's the question of the day.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
There's multiple ways to do this. You can do it with the sunset, like this picture showing, the Smurfs is showing. You can do it with time-lapse photos of stars at nighttime if looking up straight up in the sky.
Okay, we're gonna go one at a time. One at a time. So you're saying that the exclusive evidence is that the Earth is moving is the sunset. So why couldn't the sunset if the sun was moving and the Earth wasn't?
You can measure it with parallax.
Why would the sun set not be possible if it was actually just the sun moving instead of the Earth?
Because, sorry, my push the buttons messed up. Because the way we observe it.
Oh, nice specificity there, Rob.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. What you're saying is patently false. So we'll just let Einstein step in here. Well, that's a terrible one. Jeez Louise. You're gonna, at least most Globers say something about the ring laser gyro. Alan, Toby, do one of you guys want to recap the specific argument you were making about the north to south discrepancy?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to invoke the ring laser gyro, you're invoking a rotational vector. But then when we use orthogonal interferometry, when we look at the decay rate of atomic clocks, and when we look at the range measurement equations of GPS, the decay rate or the retardation rate of the induction rate of light it changes only east to west. And when you go from west to east, it goes faster, and when you go from east to west, it goes slower. But when you go north to south or south to north, either way, it's just the same. It doesn't change at all. So if there's a rotational vector, if it's purely a rotational vector, which is the claim, then that doesn't make any sense.
So if you guys can see the screen here, I'm putting up the quote from Stephen Hawking, and I'll make it bigger for Discord. Okay. Because just to clarify real fast, the idea that the sun setting is exclusive evidence that the Earth is moving, or the time lapse of the stars, right? We'll just let Stephen Hawking say it. So which is real, the Ptolemaic or Copernican system? Of course, the Ptolemaic system is a stationary Earth at rest. It's a geocentric system with everything moving around it. Of course, Copernican system.
I think what you're saying is that it is then completely. Whoa, whoops.
Okay, wait up, dude. So
New donation from Ali Yeah.
New donation, thank you, bro. I'll read them out in a second. Okay, so which is real, the Ptolemaic or Copernican system? Although it is not uncommon for people to say that Copernicus proved Ptolemy wrong, that is not true. One can use either picture as a model of the universe, for our observations of the heavens can be explained assuming either the Earth or the sun to be at rest. That's Stephen Hawking. And this is common sense, right? Common sense. We see the sun move in the sky. The globe model claims it's just an illusion because the Earth is moving. So sunset's not exclusive. The stars moving is not exclusive. It's very simple. I'm not appealing to his authority because obviously I can appeal to basic logic, but I'm just making a point that even your boy Stephen Hawking said it explicitly. So, okay. So does any Glober have any specific rebuttal to what we've broken down about the ring laser gyro? Or do you guys want to move on to some other piece of evidence? Obviously, observations of things in the sky doesn't do that at all. Just common sense. Of course it doesn't do that. That would be affirming the consequent reification fallacy, begging the question, etc., etc., etc. So the ring laser gyro, we've shown the problems with that. Not only does it not prove it, it actually disproves the claim that it's detecting Earth rotation. So no baller has anything to say back to Toby and Alan.
And the other thing I would say on that, the best measurements at altitude, like there's all the measurements that Miller did, like the hundreds of thousands, like the millions of data points that were at Mount Wilson. So those were all at altitude. But then I would also say Yuri Galev in 2001, his experiments were conducted in over a period of time, and he got perfect corroboration of what Miller showed with the altitude fluctuations. And so I would definitely refer to probably those two as my primary two sources. But they also did it in an air balloon. They sent an interferometer up in an air balloon, and they got a proportional fringe shift with that too that showed a fluctuation at altitude and also corroborated Miller. And the other thing, actually one other thing that Yuri Galev did that I would want to mention is he also did measurements about testing dielectric insulators and metal shielding around the interferometer, which is what everyone did that was quote unquote disproving Miller. Every time that they would take the measurements, they would, they would say they were gonna prove or disprove Miller, but they would always shield it with metal. And Miller was really explicit about how you shouldn't do that, and that's exactly how you don't detect what like his whole point is like the periodicity is there, it's measurable. So regardless of whether you want to talk about heat, pressure, whatever, you have to take all those things into account. But yeah, so the metal shielding, yeah, it's really important to know that if you talk to Globers that are actually versed in this, they're going to say, oh, but they did it 30 times. They say there's 30 times that Miller was not corroborated, and they try to test it over and over, and it never followed with what he claimed. But all those times have metal shielding, and a lot of them are underground or whatever. So you really have to be careful about that and look into that. And then you look at what Galev measured, and he specifically measured the metal shielding. He shot he shot like a laminar flow of gas across the metal shielding, which was going over the interferometer path with the path that the lasers were shining through. And then essentially was able to determine how much of that translation of motion of the laminar flow of the gas going over the metal tube made it through to show in the fringe shift. So it's a crazy concept when you think about it, because it's like literally like the viscosity of the ether is so great that there's a translation of measurement of that movement, or translation of movement through metal. But yeah, so he found, wow, what do you know? The metal perfectly blocks that ether wind, specifically that ether wind drift. There would still be ether there, but the wind effect is blocked by that. So yeah, like there's two ways in which like Galev totally vindicated Miller. The one is he did the altitude tests. He had a crazy setup with radio waves going across multiple points, coming from one altitude down to two other altitudes. And then he also basically showed that everyone that didn't get the same results as Miller didn't do it right, because they all used metal shielding. So yeah, I would when this conversation comes up to me, the more I read into what Galev did, the more I realize he's really important to the whole discussion.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't understand why you bring up the Einstein quote here. He's basically saying the whole argument was meaningless because either coordinate system could be equal. They both have justification depending on what your perspective of where you're at. But he's saying that they're both moving. So we all know now that everything's moving. So I don't understand.
That's not what he's saying. He says that both of them are equally valid, whether the sun is at rest and the earth moves, or the sun moves and the earth is at rest. Not moving.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it says, and if the earth is at rest. And then the other quote I just said, which is very point blank, it is that all observations of the heavens can be explained by assuming either the earth or the sun to be at rest. The current model claims that in relation to the Earth, the sun is at rest. Okay, so yeah, even though relativity says everything is moving, but that all motion is relative. Okay, well, relative to the Earth, the sun is not moving. Relative to
no, I'm sorry. go ahead.
no, that's just the case. So relative to the
I
Earth,
think
the sun
Hawkins,
is not moving.
I think Hawkins was actually meaning that for the observable, when you're on the surface of the planet, observable, what you see observable can be construed as being explained like that. You know what I'm saying? The at rest or whatever. But if you, like I said, you can do experiments to prove that it's not, like such as measuring the stars, eclipses, things like that, planet movements. All these things in the sky move every night. You can measure them.
Those are all observations of the heavens, dude. Jeez Louise, man. This is not even a complicated. This is no one that understands your model is ever going to make this claim, bro, because your claim, relativity says that everything in the sky could be moving or we could be moving through the sky. It's very simple. I mean, that's what relativity's base premise is. And let me read the donations real fast. Shane St. Pierre, thank you for the very generous $50 tip, brother. Much love to you, man. Shout out to you, Witsit, the unifying force that brought us all together for our journey towards the truth. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for the kind words and all the support, bro. You're a legend. Shane's a legend. And the community's glad to have you back active, brother. And yeah, dude, Shane's going to be active with us in the Misfits. I'm excited, dude. So everyone, just if you want to be a part of the Misfits, get in before it starts and you get some perks. But cool. All right, and then we have Ali Yer. I can't watch any flat earth debate. They are never prepared. Never answer any questions in good faith. They really make their religion look silly. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy. You would think that as we progressed over time, and we're in 2024, that the globe Earth arguments would have gotten much better, that the debate would have gotten much better, that they would have become much less fallacious. But in reality, we've seen that they've hit a wall with every single one of the subjects. They have a script and they hit a wall, and they just start looping the most popular fallacy, whatever it is. They've all just kind of decided, like, okay, well, this is the fallacy we're going to use for this argument. This is the one we're going to use for this argument. And they all just repeat it. So I agree. It probably is quite frustrating to watch them. But it's really for the third party, like the guy that came in here earlier, and he was like, I'm not going to lie, I'm watching your debates, and I think it's the Earth's the globe, but I just think it's insane that none of them can, like, debunk what you're saying, and none of them can, like, actually debate you. That's the reason that it's important to do it, of course. And at the same time, what we're doing is we are progressing. Our arguments are getting significantly more strong. We're removing any types of fallacies, and we're learning more about what's really going on. We're discovering more truth. So we're going in two different directions, and obviously that's because one side's pursuing the truth. One side is actually defending something that is untrue. So that is inevitable that over time, that's how it will turn out.
Austin, I just watched The Principle just recently, and I'm thinking anyone here who hasn't watched it, I mean, if they want to kind of get up to speed on their own superstars, the scientific superstars, admitting to the Copernican problems. I mean, it's all there. So I was just thinking out just how impressive that video was, and that documentary was, and it's a shame. So many people they bashed it, they trashed it, but I don't think they even watched it.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
I watched it on Witsit's recommendation, so thanks for that recommendation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Matthew did watch it, and dude, it's we told the guy we debated the other night. I guess that was last night with Jaron. I told him the same thing at the end of the show. Like, dude, just go watch The Principle. Everyone that believes in this current model should have to watch The Principle before they're even allowed to decide whether or not they believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you want to believe in it, it's cool. At least you need to know what you're signing up for. Okay, so we've kind of broke down the ring laser gyroscope, man. I mean, it doesn't verify that the Earth is rotating. It just doesn't. It changes with altitude. We've shown that all the replications show that there's a periodicity, meaning that based on the actual cycle of the sky, what you get, the reading you get changes. That isn't how it works on a spinning globe. And that's as simple as I can put it. The periodicity meaning like there's obviously a cycle to the sky, and the nature of that cycle directly affects the readings that we're getting on the Earth. So whether that be solar motion, he even showed a relationship between, I think, lunar motion. And so if he's showing that based on proximity to the sun and the moon, based on where they're at in their cycle, that you're getting different readings on the Earth, it can't be because the Earth is spinning the same rate the whole time. So if for it to be the Earth spinning, it would remain the same all the time, all day, every day, forever, because the Earth is just constantly rotating once a day, just doing the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's July or December, the Earth is rotating the same. So if the ring laser gyro is detecting the rotation of the Earth, then that reading will remain the same at all times. But that's not what is observed. It changes with altitude and it changes with the year. Okay? And there is no explanation. If a glober wants to actually, or changes with altitude and the time of the year, if a glober wants to defend this as evidence of Earth rotation, they need to address and explain how the measurement is changing with altitude at the same latitude, and why is it changing throughout the year? Why is it changing with the periodicity of the sun, the solar motion? How does that work if the Earth is just spinning, causing it? Because whether the sun is wherever the sun is in its cycle or in its path throughout the year, the Earth is still just spinning the same in your model. So why would the readings be changing throughout the year? Why would it have any periodicity at all whatsoever? And why would it change with altitude at the same latitude?
At what altitude does it change?
It changes just proportionate to an increase in altitude. You get more precise measurements the higher you go. So they normally they just go to like a mountaintop. When they put it in I don't know what the elevation of Mount Wilson is. Or when they put it in a hot air balloon, it changes. The fact is, it shouldn't change at all. Period. It should just always be the same. But it doesn't. It has a relationship to altitude, a relationship to what time of the year it is. This is why flat Earth is censored, bro. Like imagine like a famous PhD physicist on national TV trying to answer this question.
Well, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. It's a serious question. So if I'm on the Grand Canyon, I'm up on the top of the Grand Canyon on the rim, I have my gyroscope, and I'm on the bottom of the Grand Canyon where it's a couple miles down. Is there going to be a discrepancy in the gyroscope?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, depends on how precise your measurements are. If they're precise enough, and it would depend on the actual precision of the instrument, which is why, of course, more drastic increase. And it really doesn't matter, because even if I had to go up 100,000 feet to see the difference, that would still refute the claim, right? Like if it changed with altitude at all.
It doesn't change with altitude, though. A gyroscope doesn't. A magnetic one might, but a gyroscope will not.
But the precession does change. The measurement actually does change. It changes with altitude and it changes with time of year.
Well, is he talking about a mechanical gyroscope all of a sudden?
Yeah, the one that Bob used had nothing to do with magnets. It was not a magnetic. It was not a magnetic compass or gyroscope or anything.
Bob used a ring laser gyro.
Yeah, ring laser gyro. Wait, I thought Bob used a fiber optic gyro.
Yeah, well, yeah, I actually used both.
Nothing to do with magnets. No magnets in it.
Okay. We're using a fiber optic gyroscope. They claim it's detecting the spin of the Earth, but it's changing with altitude.
Are you confused about the fact that light is an electromagnetic wave?
No, I'm trying to explain to you that it doesn't change the altitude. I can be at the top of Mount Everest, or I could be at the bottom of the Death Valley. It's the same gyroscope. I don't understand what you're saying. You're trying to say that it changes, but you have no proof that it has, and no math that it has. I mean, show me some proof that it has.
I mean, I just explicitly talked about Yuri Galev corroborating Dayton Miller. I can get you the altitude of the Mount Wilson Observatory. I can't recall it off the top of my head. But then also the Kharkov.
1,800 feet.
Thank you, Alan.
Do you guys want to like quickly try to explain to him what Galev did? I mean, like okay, let's do this. Let's make sure that the audience and him and everyone actually understands what we're talking about, maybe, right? Like on a very basic level. Do one of you guys want to do it?
So like I said, go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say, Toby gave a really good rendition of it earlier, but in essence, to start off with, so we have Mickelson Morley taking measurements in Cleveland at above sea level by about like 200 feet or something like that, right? So he gets a friend shift pattern that corresponds to about 3,000 kilometers a second.
Which means that they shoot a light beam and then they split it to make so they can ensure that the light beam is in the same phase. The only way you could have the light beam exactly in the same phase is that it's just a singular beam and then it's split. Then it hits a mirror. Then when it gets split, it goes in different directions. Then it hits a silvered mirror. It reflects back and meets back in the middle. So they go perpendicular to each other, come back, meet in the middle, and then go to the receiver together. And the fringe shift is the separation between those two light beams. And it gives you what's called an interference pattern. Those beams interfere, or a fringe shift, right? So how much that the light was shifted over in relation to the other one to give you a reading, because it's measuring some type of movement, because the light is displaced from the other light beam. Therefore, they don't move perfectly together all the way back to the receiver. They get to the receiver at different times. So they start intersecting. So if you take your hands and you move them like a snake, if you move both of them like a snake on top of each other, you're going to see that they intersect each other over and over and over. Just like putting two waveform, like draw a wave on a piece of paper, then draw another wave a little bit behind that one back across it. You're going to see that they intersect. That's an interference pattern. Toby is showing an illustration of it right now. I'll make it big. Okay, so this is an illustration showing you, a visualization showing you what happens in Michelson-Morley. And see how they come back together, and then it looks like DNA. That's a fringe shift, because there's an actual interference pattern here now. So if you see where the light is at the beginning, you can see my mouse, I think. So you see it comes out as the same. It gets split. One goes this way, and one keeps going this way. It comes back and meets in the middle, and then it comes to the receiver, and they are not together. They're separated. Right? This is actually, I've never seen this. This is a good visualization. So this is...
Yeah, I like this one.
This is what is observed, is that they're separated. Now, the current model... Okay, at first, they would have predicted a certain amount of that fringe shift, because they were like, the Earth is orbiting around the sun. So it's flying through space. So one light beam, based on which direction that the Earth is moving, is going to be separate. It's going to move different than the other one. Because one light beam is going to, be moving with the motion, one's going to be moving against it, right? So the other one's going to have to catch up, basically. So when they come back, there's going to be a separation to a certain number. They didn't get that number that they should have got. So then they said, okay, then you can't detect the Earth's motion. They changed all of physics, and we don't have to go through all that, okay? And they said that there is no fringe shift, and the little bit that they're detecting, because there was one, was instrumental error. Okay, so that's the history, and most people here probably know. Now you guys know that's the basic. So when we're talking about the experiments, or the measurements, you understand exactly what's going on. Okay, and the idea is using the same principles that they detect the Earth spinning, because as the Earth spins, one of the light beams gets to the receiver at a different time than the other light beam, because the Earth is moving underneath it.
Okay. Witsit, can you hear me? If that's the case, why would the gyroscope be spinning at all if we're stationary?
Okay, dude. This is just like when I talked about the falsification independent replacement thing. It's not that we don't have an answer to the question of why we're getting it. We absolutely do, and it destroys your whole paradigm. The point is that it's not sufficient to avoid the conclusion. Because what happens is you'll come back tomorrow and still not get it, right? What people do is they jump over the falsification part and they start seeing like, well, do they have answers? And then they never have to face the falsification part. That's the part that we're currently discussing.
From William.
Yeah, so like the whole discussion, right? This whole thing about who's moving, is the sky moving, are we moving? It's all about relational motion. It's this big like question of how do you determine what's in motion? And so we're like, I get it's kind of complicated and we maybe talk fast or whatever, but the whole point of this whole thing about interferometry is to talk about the most precise measurements that we can take of this relational motion. And the problem for the globe model, and where the relational motion thing starts to become maybe a little bit more of a clear picture, is that once you start seeing that relational motion be measured, you start seeing an anisotropic effect where there's a directionality and there's not a rotational vector because there's no north and south directionality. And then you go up higher in altitude, and the velocity of that wind effect, the fringe shift gets greater. So so you get a higher velocity at altitude, you get a one-way velocity that's not a rotational vector, and then there's a possibility that you have a complete reversal of the direction in the southern hemisphere or out past the equatorial plane. So in that case, this discussion about relational motion starts to become, you can actually start to kind of paint a picture of what might be happening. And this also is a massive problem for anyone that's a flat earther that maybe thinks the ground is coming up, right? Like you're going to try and somehow give away the idea that we're not in motion, and you're going to say that the ground is coming up and we're rising with everything. But it can work like that with what we measure with the sky, because the sky, that velocity gradient of the ether wind, quote unquote, the preferred directionality of the speed of light, the fringe shift growing gets greater and greater at higher altitudes. So you start to paint the picture of a vortex. You start to actually look literally like a 3D model of a vortex motion that's occurring. And on a globe, it would be like a spinning, like a speeding outward thing that has to match somehow, that matches the motion of the sun. Right, like, which wouldn't make any sense with us being in orbit.
But we do have those models though that show the directions of all the currents you're talking about.
But I'm talking about measurements, right? Not models.
Well, the measurements can make the models. So models are made up of measurements. They use the measurements to make the models. I mean, that's simple premise here.
Yeah, but the thing I'm saying is, like, so these are first order measurements. These are you go out, you literally measured what the background medium that the light propagates through is doing. The material medium that's necessary for electromagnetic waves to propagate. You go out and measure what that's actually doing. And to extrapolate from there, you can theorize all you want. You can extrapolate all sorts of kind of like second order theories about what maybe could be happening. Maybe it goes out into space and does a circle and comes back, and the gradient is this way because of X, Y, Z. But we're just talking about first order measurements that show like a literal vortex motion occurring, right? You can't get away from the first order measurements, and that's the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is not to go off in the weeds and make things up, right? It's to try and to find an exclusive evidence of the Earth either being in motion or not being in motion.
Yeah, and let's make sure that everyone fully understands the history. That was Michelson-Morley, the visualization and explanation we just gave. And then they ended up replicating it many times. Dayton Miller did it, got over 5 million measurements. It's been replicated by Dlive and other people in the 21st century. And I believe it was 1935, there was a test called Michelson-Gale-Pearson. Okay? And that's where you get the Sagnac effect, right? It's not where you get it, but that's what is measured there. Right? And that is, of course, the interference pattern that comes from the way that their paradigm would claim is a rotational motion, a circular motion. They claimed that was verification of the Earth's rotation. Okay? They came out after Michelson-Gale-Pearson and said, we measured the Earth's spin. Right? Because they had a prediction based on the sidereal rotation, and the measurements matched it within 98% accuracy. So unlike Michelson-Morley, which did not match the orbit claim at all, the Michelson-Gale-Pearson did match the sidereal rotation. If you don't know, that's the stuff in the sky spinning in a day. Sidereal rotation, like the stars, they spin every day. So the globe stop, dude. The globe still claims that is the evidence of Earth rotation, is the Sagnac effect in things like ring laser gyros. Okay? What we're talking about is that subsequent measurements have shown that actually that measurement that correlates to sidereal rotation changes with altitude. It changes with time of year. That is not possible if it's the Earth spinning causing it. We're going to focus on the falsification of the claim that it is measurement of Earth rotation. We're not going to jump over to, well, then I wonder what it is. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if God is breathing. Doesn't matter if God's moving his finger in a circle. Doesn't matter if fairies are flying around in a circle. Doesn't matter what it is. It's not a ball spinning. Okay? We need acknowledgement of the falsification of the Earth rotation claim when it comes to things like ring laser gyros. Right. This
That's
is
gonna
like when
kill
I
a lot
say,
of egos,
hey, look,
man.
yeah, it's like when I say, here's Canagoo, right? It should be, there should be like 10,000 feet of curvature. The top of Canagoo Mountain should be hidden by almost 2,000 extra feet of curvature. But here it is. We see the silhouette of it whenever the sun sets. This is impossible on a globe if it has the size you say. And then the globe earther responds with, oh yeah? Then how does gravity work? It's like, what? Oh yeah, then what are the planets? It's like, no. Focus on the falsification part of it, right? That's how an intellectually honest person will go about it. You notice when we pin them down the falsification, we get crickets. So you're going through cognitive dissonance, bro. It is just like an ego thing where it's like, no, you can't acknowledge it. Well, then are you afraid of the truth? Are you afraid that the Earth's not moving? It doesn't sound like you're open-minded, dude.
Well, look, Eric, I'm not like all the other Globers you go, see, I'm not like, I'm my own person, man. So I'm open to everybody's different opinions and ideas, but I just like to delve deeper into the facts of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, when I think of the flat Earth model, and I would say, okay, let's go through it. And like you said, prove the rotation. So how would I prove that there's no rotation when we have storm systems that move around the planet? We can see them on satellites. We can take them on radar, and you can see their movements. And they're dictated by which half of the planet they sit on.
Okay, so first we're gonna just go ahead and chalk up the first one, right? We falsified the claim that the ring laser gyro is detecting the motion of the Earth. It's not. Okay, we're not gonna jump over to storms right now. We're gonna say the ring laser gyro that's claimed to measure the spin of the Earth actually doesn't measure the spin of the Earth. That's what we're talking about right now. I would love to move on to another thing. I can't believe I've had to say this many times. So let me come on camera so that people aren't just like, oh my God, bro.
I don't want to move on. I'm sorry, Witsit. I don't want to move on either. I want to talk about the gyro too. But my whole thing about the gyro is, let's say we put it in a box and we take it 10 miles to the Mariana Trench in a box, and we take it 100 miles up in the air. You're saying that it's going to be different measurements. And I'm saying, how do you know that it's going to be different measurements? How would you measure that?
What we're going to currently talk about, again, is that the claim is that the Earth is rotating, and I'm just going to break this down, and I'm going to executive decision this. They claim that the Earth is rotating, and that the seismic effect is actually verifying that the ring laser gyro is detecting the Earth rotating. Again, what's been shown is that is not the case. That Michelson-Gale-Pearson was not detecting the rotation of the Earth. That ring laser gyros don't detect the rotation of the Earth because the seismic effect is caused by something else. It is a real effect. It's verified. It happens all the time, but it is not caused by a sphere that's spinning, because it changes with altitude and it changes with time of year. Yet if the Earth is spinning, it spins the same regardless of altitude and regardless of time of year. Therefore, definitively proving it cannot be the Earth spinning as a sphere causing the effect. Now, there's another problem. We still have to acknowledge that there is an effect. There still is an effect, and it matches the sidereal rotation. It's clearly in relation to the sidereal rotation, and it's clearly in relation to the motion of the sun and the moon, which means there's a spinning vortex motion happening around the Earth, and based on where the sun and moon are, the amount that you can detect changes. And based on how high you get to this, close to the sky, how close you get to the sky, the amount changes. Okay, so now we've shown that the Earth has to be stationary because the sky has been measured to be moving around it. Okay, this sums up, it's debate over. So it's not only a falsification of the claim that the Earth is rotating and that it's measured with this, it's falsification of the claim the Earth's rotating, period, because it is clearly a measurement of the sky moving. Which means if we're measuring the sky moving...
I will agree with you on that. Something is moving.
No. There's only one thing that can be moving based on the evidence. It's the stuff in the sky. Okay.
Okay, so how would the stuff in the sky make the gyroscope spin?
Okay, dude. First of all, gyroscopes, they maintain the rigidity in space and they spin. It isn't that something makes them spin. Okay. The light in a gyroscope, for example, is going to show you that there's something else moving. There's something else that's moving. You should be asking, how could the stuff moving in the sky give us the interference pattern? How does that give us the reading that the gyroscope gives us? And the answer is, we don't have to know the answer. Okay. Now, obviously, it does appear that the answer is something akin to an ether drift, some type of medium that the sky is in. Everything is moving around. And when we look at that light, it's affected by that movement. Okay. That is the most probable and frankly obvious answer, is that there actually is an ether, that everything is moving around a stationary Earth, and that as you get higher to the sky, you get higher, closer to the motion. And so we're just detecting the motion of the sky. So obviously the antecedent to detect the motion of the sky down here on the Earth is something connecting us in the sky. Something has to be connecting, acting like a bridge between us and the stuff in the sky for us to get the measurement. That's just the antecedent of motion. Right? To measure the motion up there, there has to be something that we're measuring it through. Okay? That would be where you get the ether drift. It's the idea of swimming with a stream or swimming against a stream. Very simple. And there is no rebuttal to that, by the way, right? Like, how could you measure the motion of the sky? How could you measure the motion of the? How could you? I'm saying there's no answer to this. Really, this is like a direct evidence of the ether. How could you measure the motion of the sky from the Earth without something connecting you to that motion? I mean, come on. So, but all that aside. We beat it into the ground. We beat it into the. You agree? Do you agree and concede that it cannot be the Earth spinning causing the reading that we get in a ring laser gyro with the Sagnac effect if it changes with altitude and changes with the time of year?
I'm just saying that I don't understand why it would spin in the first place if we're stationary. Wind and stuff like that, and forces, ether forces, would have no effect on a gyroscope. I don't understand what that would even mean. What that even means.
Dude, I just okay. You can just sit it out. Just sit out for a second. So, like, you don't have an answer, but I will say this. If you guys want to keep talking or whatever, I'm gonna have to close my stream labs and pop back on because my logo thing froze. So. It kind of makes me nervous, but I think it's still going to work. I think we're still going to be able to come back, but my thing froze. I guess it doesn't matter. Nope. I just won't be on camera on this scene, so it's whatever. Forget it. I don't want to necessarily risk the stream. Let me come to the camera real fast. Okay, I'm sorry that this has been so redundant, but hopefully at this point, I'm talking to the stream so Discord knows I'm talking on camera real fast. I know it's been super redundant and we've said the same thing over and over, but hopefully everyone understands at this point, because I've said it so many different ways to try to get someone to acknowledge it, that you should understand it. I'm going to recap it one last time. We're going to move on to something else. Okay. It's simple. If the Earth is spinning, right, the rotation that you're going to detect is going to depend on where you are on that sphere, right? So we have lines drawn on a sphere. We have concentric circles. One goes in the horizontal axis, that is latitude. Then you have them going the other way around. You have longitude. Okay. Based on where you are in latitude, so where you are from the top of the sphere to the middle, back down, where you are amongst that sphere is going to determine what angle you're at, which gives you a certain reading of rotation. Okay. So that's why you take the cosine of the latitude. Based on where you are on the sphere, you get a different reading. Same with the pendulum, right? The pendulum would precess different rates at different places on the latitude, and then it shouldn't move at all at the equator. Okay, so if it's the Earth spinning, then it's based on latitude alone, because the Earth is always allegedly spinning the same rate forever, every day, day after day after day after day. The Earth is spinning, according to them. So if the ring laser gyro is detecting the Earth spinning, then that measurement that it gets has to stay the same every single day forever, because the Earth isn't changing how it's spinning. But what actually happens is that measurement changes throughout the year based on where the sun is, based on where the moon is, right? It changes.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
it has a periodicity.
It's also based off the tilt of the Earth itself.
No.
That's why when you go towards the equator, all of the days are usually the same. They have it's the same time the sun sets every time of the day of the year.
This is another red herring fallacy. We're talking about the actual measurement. Please don't interrupt. I'm recapping. I'm not debating it anymore. It's over. I'm making sure that audience understands. So if you guys just understand that and understand that there is no rebuttal to it, They'll just say, nuh-uh, that it doesn't happen. Okay, but it does happen. It's been well documented. It's been verified. Dave Miller got over 5,200,000 measurements himself because he was getting multiple measurement readings each time he did it. And then we had even verification of it with people like Dlive and stuff in the 21st century. Okay, so we've verified that it changes throughout the year. It's called a periodicity, right? Meaning that there is like an actual cyclical period to the readings, like the equinoxes and the solstices and the solar motion and the lunar motion, where the sun is and the moon is in their cycles, affect the readings, which means we're detecting stuff happening in the sky, not the earth moving, because the earth would be rotating the same way every day. It wouldn't change throughout the year. It doesn't care if it's July or August. Okay, it doesn't care if it's December. It doesn't care if it is the equinoxes. It's always spinning the same. Therefore, definitively disproving the claim that you're detecting earth spin. There's no way around it. It also changes with altitude. But it couldn't change with altitude because the angle down to the latitude on a sphere remains the same regardless of altitude. So if you're detecting earth spin, it would remain the same at latitude when you keep the latitude the same regardless of changing altitude, but that's not what we see. It would also stay the same throughout the year, right? Because it always spins the same regardless of what time of the year it is, but that's not what we see. Therefore, the periodicity and the change with altitude refutes the claim that it is the Earth spinning. Therefore, ring laser gyros, which flat earthers used to say, oh, well, correlation doesn't equal causation, and they would talk about how it maintains rigidity in space. Some people would call it a parlor trick, all this other stuff. No. The answer is yes, we can use interferometry to show us a relationship between the light, the measurement with light, and what happens in the sky. Right? Because Michelson-Gale-Pearson, it matched the prediction of the sidereal rotation, which is the sky spinning, within 98% accuracy. Right? They wanted to hijack that and claim, oh, see, we measured the Earth rotating. Problem number one is Michelson-Morley, assuming the orbit with the same exact framework and technology, did not measure the orbit. Okay? So what that means is there is only one viable option. It's that there is a real rotation, but it's of the sky, that there is no orbit. There is nothing else to measure except for that rotation. And then to staple that on, we kept doing the test and replicating it and showing that the interferometry measurements changes with altitude. It has a preferred direction. It changes, and the preferred direction is, of course, the same thing as measuring the rotation in the first place, right? Preferred direction, the direction that it's rotating, right? And that is the sky that's rotating. And it changes with altitude and time of year. Okay, now I said it like 30 times. There's no doubt that people should get it. Sorry if people were like, oh, I got it the first time. Okay, so the ring laser gyro not only doesn't prove the Earth is rotating, it does the exact opposite. Interferometry measurements are the enemy of the globe model. Direct falsification. If you're a truth seeker, you're not going to compartmentalize this. You're not going to frantically look for some other answer. You're not going to say, but how would seasons work on a flat Earth? You're not going to change the subject and think about some other way to bring something else in, or just pretend you didn't hear it, or be like, well, this flat earther can't be right. You're just going to be honest, accept the truth for what it is, and be like, okay, it can't be the Earth spinning. So I'm no longer going to claim that the gyroscope detects the Earth spinning, because it can't be. Because we've just proven it. And if you don't know, I would encourage everyone to research it, get the resources. I'll make sure I drop all the papers in my Telegram, t.me/WitchStreams. And if you sign up, let me say this, if you sign up to be a member, and we have water, fire, earth, air, ether, 5 tiers on Ko-fi, the first description and the first link in the description. Then whenever we end up launching this membership, which will be soon, you'll get exclusive access to the app and to the site, to like basically our little Miswit social media. And then we'll also have all the resources. You'll have communities to talk to, all that kind of stuff. Cool. Okay. So if you want to subscribe, link in the description. If you want to donate to the stream, link in the description. I'll read them in a second. We're going to move back over to Discord, and we're not going to talk about the ring laser gyroscope anymore. My goodness. Okay. All right. Sorry I know you guys were like, oh my God, I get it. You're muted.
Thank you. One last thing on it I just really want to just throw out there. If you're a truther, you should also just be curious to know, one, why did Georgios Staniak, he actually measured differences at altitude. It's mentioned like by other people, but the work where he did that is gone. His works are super hard to find. You can find like 1 or 2 short notes of his. But this is the guy that discusses that the effect is named after him, the Staniak effect. and you can't find any work of his. Like, it's all just burned, lost to time. It would be in French. I've gone looking for it to translate it, can't find it. And then also Maurice Elias, another Frenchman. And if you go look at his Wikipedia page in 1997, you can look up the ISDN of the book. It's called L'Anastropie de Space. It's about the anastropy of space, and it's all about his pendulum experiments, all about when he measured the Elias effect. But if you go to his Wikipedia page, you'll see all his books listed. This is a Nobel laureate for economics, but a Nobel laureate. You'll see all his books listed, and then right where L'Anastropie de Space would be, it's gone. It's just not listed. It would have been in 1997. So why are they hiding his book about the pendulum and about the Elias effect? And why did they, bury Georges Sagnac to time, the guy that discovered the Sagnac effect? Just a couple of questions truthers should be asking themselves.
Yeah, and it's very telling that everyone in the chat that believes in the globe and all that, none of them can acknowledge the evidence or the argument, the actual thing we're talking about. Every single one of them are changing the subject. So you have to completely avoid this. How do you sleep with yourself? How do you know that you're not a truther then? You know that you're not actually looking for the truth of the situation. Either you're like, okay, I need to figure out how this does work with a spinning globe, or accept that it clearly doesn't and it falsifies it. Okay? But those are the only two options that are honest. Otherwise, you're lying to yourself. You have cognitive dissonance. This information makes you uncomfortable because it doesn't comport to your worldview or your belief. And so you're trying to just desperately bring something else up to convince yourself that you know that the Earth is a spinning globe. And that's just weird, but it's up to you. Okay, so Toby laid out a nice little closing there. I think we're good on the ring laser driver.
Subscription from Flatlass.
Let me read those subscriptions real fast. So, William A, welcome to the water tier. Thank you for signing up. Welcome to the Misfits. And Flatless just signed up for the fire. Thank you so much for signing up, Flatless legend, and welcome to the Misfits, brother. And we'll have you. I'll let you guys all. I'll keep you guys updated on the app. It's gonna be dope. All right, cool. There's that. So, jeez Louise. All right, we got rid of that. The other claim that they make, of course, is that the pendulum measures the Earth rotating. Right. And we've shown that the pendulum actually changes with the stuff that happens in the sky as well. Right. So based on solar eclipses and the periodicity of the sun and the moon, what the pendulum does changes. So same exact argument we just pointed out. It can't be the Earth rotating because the Earth doesn't rotate at different rates throughout the year. Right? In order to claim it's the Earth rotating causing that, you'd have to say that, like, literally the Earth is rotating differently throughout the year.
30%. It rotates 30% faster at one part of the year than another.
Which means, of course, you'd have to have a 30% shorter day.
Yep.
Believe it or not, guys, the days do not get 30% shorter at one point of the year. Just
Absolutely.
really open your mind and think about what we're saying. There's no way out. I mean, that's why we have like a Discord that stays having ball earthers and won't address it, and they're gonna come on. Okay, I'm gonna invite you on. I see you raising your hand, eggshells. Don't bring up other subjects, please, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't bring up something else or just appeal to possibility or whatever, sophistry or whatever. I'm not trying to hate on you.
How about I lay out my argument and you tell me what's wrong with it when I relate it to the same thing. I don't think like already drawing fence posts when you don't know what I'm saying is valid, right?
Well, I'm just saying, please, like, stay on subject.
Yeah. So what you're saying sounds like the Mickelson, Morley, Pearson Gale, all these other ones that I don't fully understand, Elias, like all these different things with pendulums and gyros and attempts to measure the speed of light by changes in our orbit all fail. And I think what you concede is that a ring laser gyroscope does measure something around a 15 degree per hour drift, but that could be something else. which when pressed on why you said it, when you were talking before, you said, we don't know, we don't have to know. So we're saying there's a thing we don't know exists, and we're contending that maybe that's affecting this because it's matching the stars. So you don't have a mechanism, and you're going, okay, it could be that. What I'm putting on the table is there is another object, which is a mechanical gyroscope, including a mechanical gyro compass, that operates on a completely different principle. So speed of light and tilting it and getting interference patterns, you can do it, I believe, with 0 moving parts. And the gyro is completely 100% the other direction, where you spin something really fast, spin a mass really fast, apply torque to it, and see where it points. And that finds the same thing. So that's, to me, an impressive answer, because sure, the lights in the sky are moving at 15 degrees per hour, so something that operates on light might be affected in some way. That's reasonable. But what about the mechanical gyro compass that shows the same thing that is predicted by a rotating Earth?
Hey, can you show me these precise measurements made throughout the year?
What do you mean precise measurements made throughout the year?
Can you show me those measurements compiled over the course of a year?
Sure, yeah. Or like, I don't know,
No,
like,
you
do
can't.
you want raw data from somewhere?
Yeah, I want the data of those measurements being done throughout the year, because I don't think you're understanding that if the claim is that the mechanical gyro and the ring laser gyro are both detecting the same thing. So just the simple fact alone that the ring laser gyro is not detecting the Earth rotating, and there's no way around it. There's no way around
I'm putting
it.
that in the chat. I'm putting that in the chat. Well, hang on. Why is the ring laser gyro not detecting Earth moving? If I tilt it at 15 degrees per hour in any direction, it will read that. So ignoring which direction it's pointing, if I tip it in any direction, it will read that. It's a gyro. They both work in the same way. They find their angular, like a change in angle, and they record that. They're able to output that. And so I can tilt it in any direction at 15 degrees per hour and slower than that. And it will always be able to read that with a high fidelity, and it's always turning east at 15 degrees per hour. Those two things are true of the ring laser gyro. So I do think it makes a compelling case that the Earth is turning, but I get your point about light. My point is that measures the same thing a mechanical gyro compass works, and we also know that a mechanical gyro, we get how that works. We've done physics, right? You spin up a bicycle wheel and try and turn it, and it's weird. It sort of kicks out the torque in predictable, weird ways. So we know these two things do measure rotation, right?
Like I said, we know that the ring laser cannot be detecting the Earth rotating because it changes with altitude, and it changes throughout the year based on the periodicity of the sun and moon cycles. Same with the pendulum. Same with the pendulum. It changes with the actual cycles. Now, mechanical gyroscopes are a cool claim. It's cool to jump on the internet and claim that the mechanical gyroscopes always detect the Earth rotating. But what we know in reality is that the vast majority of the times that we've attempted to actually do it, they don't detect it. And the mainstream answer is that it's hard to detect the Earth rotating with mechanical gyros. They'd have to be just the right kind. And then when you try to find an example of it actually doing it, guess who we have to rely on? An anti-flat earther that came on the internet since 2016. So it obviously isn't too consistent, seeing as how the vast majority of attempts don't detect it. And then even worse than that, even if it did detect, even if mechanical gyros did detect it, stop interrupting me, dude. Even if mechanical gyroscopes did detect it, we just now pointed out that the pendulum is a material object affected by the same drift, right? And it changes also with periodicity of the sun and the moon. So the same thing could apply to a mechanical gyro.
I'm sure, like, the moon moves tides, that it could affect a gyro in ways that we don't fully realize by, like, subtending the ground, so it's actually, we find the geoid is moving. That heat, that light, that poor bearings, grimy lenses, humidity, all sorts of things would affect both of these instruments. Sure, I'm not going to be able to show you something that is exactly a millionth of a second correct over 10,000 years. I'm going to show you something that will always measure roughly a 15 degree per hour drift in a specific direction, centered around 2 points. that are the stars that we claim are the bottom of the ball. So exactly what should be happening if the Southern Cross is pointing at the southern celestial pole is happening with a gyroscope that you could take underground, and it cannot see the stars, and it will point at this star through the rock. How can it do that?
Okay, so it's the actual angle is going to be based on where you are within the torus field, and we've broken that geometry down and all that. That's no big deal. But that isn't the point, man. The point is that you can't. The point is that you can't claim it's the Earth spinning. And maybe I need to tap someone else in. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm gonna end up getting frustrated. You can't claim it's the Earth spinning because we've shown that it has a direct relationship to altitude. If it was the Earth spinning, it wouldn't change with altitude.
Do other things change with altitude? Like
Sure.
temperature, ambient pressure, humidity, heat, cold.
Yes, that's why the tests take all of those things into account specifically. Like when Dayton Miller did it with 5 million measurements and introduced radiant heat sources directly to the measurements to show the relationship of what it affects. To show you, and you can't, of course, is the temperature always the same at different altitudes? No.
It's a precise instrument. I'm sure it sometimes has errors, particularly when used by unskilled people.
Why would it be? Wait, how could it be an error? How could it be an error if it keeps happening the same? So, like, an error wouldn't happen in the same periodicity as the sun and moon. That wouldn't be an error.
What's the claim? What is the error? How much? Describe to me the most skilled operator and the worst error they're getting, and how you know.
No, I'm saying the reason it can't be an error is because if
error.
If it was an error, it would be random.
Sure. Why is it always eastward?
That's what. Okay, the sky moves in one direction. It moves east to west.
How's a mechanical instrument measuring what the sky is doing? How does it do that?
Okay, well, that's a great question. We would tell you that it's because there's an ether. Okay, but but that's my answer. But that's why I'm saying falsifications, independent replacement doesn't matter. Great question. Isn't it a very fascinating realm where somehow pendulums and gyroscopes are actually detecting the sky spinning? Very fascinating, huh? I would logically say the only way that could happen is there must be some type of medium connecting us with the sky. How else is that actual motion going to be translated down to us so that we can detect it? Obviously, the antecedent to a translation of motion is some type of medium. There has to be some type of mutual contact. That would be my answer. But the point outside of that, regardless of if you say ether or not, because people spiral and they want to derail to talk about how they don't believe in something. I don't care if people believe in it, right? It can't be error because it's consistent, right? It shows that there's a direct relationship between where the sun is in the sky, like during the year, like the periodicity of the sun, the periodicity of the moon. The measurements.
Does the periodicity of the sun affect I think a mechanical gyroscope isn't affected by that. I know it's affected by latitude, and I'm sure by temperature and some other things. They just get a bias, so bearings can also creep in, and it wants to it wanders around. It's always still pointing at north, but it's sometimes bouncing this way and that. So you're saying that is measured, that is then influence to look due north and south because something can we detect this in any other ways with any other gyroscope? So an identical thing, how else could I tell it was ether?
The way that you're going to tell if it's something like the distinguishing factor here is no matter what altitude you're at, right? The angular rotation of a globe stays the same, strictly based on latitude. So that means that one basket has, it is different at altitudes because one is you're closer to the sky. The other basket doesn't care about altitude at all, always stays the same. One basket it stays the same throughout the whole year because the Earth just keeps rotating the same every single day. It never changes. The other basket is the stuff that happens in the sky other than sidereal rotation does not stay the same every day. It changes throughout the year. Right? Like the sun has an ecliptic path and it changes. We have seasons. These things change, right? So if something's going on in the sky, you would expect to be able to see changes with eclipses, changes with where the sun is in its path throughout the year, changes where the moon is, and changes when you get closer to the sky. On the other side, you would expect to see no changes in relation to where the sun is, where the moon is, how close you are to the sky, or during eclipses. That wouldn't change anything because the Earth is spinning the same in all those scenarios. The measurements show direct correlation to those other variables, proving it must be an effect detected from the sky, not the spin of the Earth.
If both were affected by the same thing, yes. That's why I'm in, because I don't get ring laser gyros much. I think I kind of like 30% get mechanical gyros, and they make a better argument because they use a different process.
The evidence for those are very shoddy, bro.
Ether,
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So like
ether is able to do two things in two separate realms. We use light to do it in one place and a spinning mass to do it in another, and ether affects them both the same to trick us into making it look
it's
like
not the same. It's not the same.
rotating.
It doesn't affect them the same because mechanical gyros are not nearly as consistent or reliable at all. And that's me just granting it because the fact is it's widely accepted. You can't reliably use the mechanical gyro to detect the rotation of the Earth. Widely accepted. What? Yeah, it has to be a very specific sensitivity and blah blah blah. Now and then wait up. And then also you have the pendulum. Okay. Now my point is the pendulum's the same.
I can see that.
The pendulum is the same way, right? Like the pendulum is not very consistent. Like the pendulum is super sensitive, and people claim it's consistent, but that's just a made up story. There's not even one measurement of it at the equator ever where it's supposedly not processing on a globe. But what we know is that it's almost impossible. No, there's no actual verification that it doesn't process the equator. I'm saying it's almost impossible to not impose. It's almost impossible to not impose a lateral bias on it, right? And all these things. But the actual amount that it processes changes. What people do is they just assume that they mess something up until they get the reading that the globe predicts. My point in saying all that is to say, even like Einstein said, well, the effect would be less. I expect the effect to be less on matter than the light. Okay, because the light actually is the ether, let's be real. So of course it's going to be affected much more precisely, whereas the matter is an additional thing, right? It's something, it's going to be affected less. That's actually what the evidence suggests. Can anyone else tap in for a second? I got to use the bathroom. Go ahead.
I do agree with the general idea that the ether could affect it because it's the lights in the sky and they're moving around us around these two central points. In a particular way that is 15 degrees per hour. So if on the ground we find 15 degrees per hour using light, I absolutely grant you that is a reasonable supposition to make, to go, well,
and so would Mach Einstein.
Sure. This doesn't answer why a mechanical gyro, because a mechanical gyro does work in extraordinarily tough conditions very, very well. They're on pretty much all commercial freight will have these on board, and there'll be even more in scientific applications and stuff like that. And nowhere am I finding that what day it is, seasons is anything to do with that. It's many things that might affect that. Like
no one's ever tried to measure that with a mechanical gyro, and I don't know why you would try to measure that with a mechanical gyro when you can instead use extremely precise interferometry, and you can actually extend your precision by just increasing the distance by which the light has to travel. So if you could use a bunch of mirrors, you could have an insanely or just a really long fiber optic cable. You could have an insanely precise interferometer. But in order to do that with a mechanical gyro, really it's like gigantic bearings that are somehow don't impose any friction, which that's not gonna. It's not the tool you would use. It's not the tool that you would use to measure a periodicity in a change in the quote unquote speed of light. You wouldn't do that with a mechanical gyroscope. There's just two different levels of precision there that we're talking about.
Sure, but I'm just saying a ring laser gyro works off the principle. If I pull up how does a ring laser gyroscope work, one of the words in the first sentence or two is going to be rotation of the Earth. I guarantee you that. Find me one that doesn't. And so I'm saying this device works. It points in a direction based on a principle that I get because I can do physically, spin something in your hand and apply a torque in one direction.
Well, it's not.
You want to go one way.
So first of all, there is a difference between the ring laser and the fiber optic gyro. First of all, because the fiber optic gyro is a coil. What's that?
I'm still only trying to talk about mechanical gyro compasses.
But you
mechanical.
just were talking about ring laser gyros a second ago, right?
Right. Sorry. Away you go. Beg your pardon. Sorry, Toby. I'm being a dick.
Oh, you're good. So I was just so yeah, there's a ring laser gyro and there's a fiber optic gyro, and with the fiber optic gyro, you have like a coil of fiber cable that the light goes through right before it hits the mirror and comes back and recombines, and you get your interference pattern. But with the ring laser gyro, it's actually like a triangle, or there can actually even be a square. That's what they use in Australia. But it's like a
Yes, like a
triangle
prism.
that the light goes through, and then it recombines in a center point between between the path, one of the 3 points of the triangle or whatever. But so that's different than a fiber optic gyro. But with a fiber optic gyro, I don't know if you have to do the same with the ring laser gyro, but I know with like a fiber optic gyro, they actually get what's called phase locked, and they have to induce a resonance with the fiber optic gyro to actually, it essentially vibrates the thing to keep it
That's
to
quite
keep
cool.
it from
Physically vibrates it. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
yeah. So they actually it's like, and then like I said, like Austin was getting into, there's the temperature, there's the pressure. So it's really not quite so straightforward to just say it's measuring like a 15-degree rotation, because it's actually calibrated, right? Like it's actually calibrated to match a certain level of fringe shift, and so when you see a 1 to 2 degree variation in that based on just a fluctuation in temperature or just a fluctuation in altitude, then you really have to start looking at the zero result that you have, right? Like what's your mean? What's your, or not your mean? What's your resting rate? What is that actually measured by? What is the process by which that's occurring? And if it's based on just purely an interference pattern, then you have to do that math particularly to see what, like how far, quote unquote, did the light, quote unquote, travel. And so if the thing is calibrated to show 15 degrees per hour, which when they calibrate, when they read a fringe shift, they actually use a regression model to do that. So it would be built into the application software, and that would be using presuppositions of what the fiber, or of what the gyro was built to do.
Yeah, it's called the Kalman filter specifically. Like, there's a mechanism for it.
But I can blind this thing. This thing doesn't know what east is, right? I can turn it in any orientation, and the device's only job is knowing what its rotation is. And I will always, once I put it back at rest, I will always now made it be able to point east. What that's suggesting is that it is a more complex device that secretly finds east, even when you move it quite quickly. That the moment you stop it, you can go bang, I found east again. I don't think that you can write that into the software. And I think another key point is this, and I'll be quick on it, I'm really sorry.
Well, you seem to misunderstood my point, but go ahead.
I would grant that the answer is probably anywhere that it is reading. So if it's reading 5 degrees per hour to 20 degrees per hour, I would go, it could be anywhere in there, right? I'd match it up with something else. Is it ever measuring zero? Is it ever measuring stationary? Do any of these devices ever, even when they're worst calibrated, even when, they haven't got the tolerances right, like the mechanical gyro compass, I can tell you when it's out of whack, at least I've had this described to me, it just sort of goes bong, 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 bong. Still looking at north, it's just not very good at locking right onto it. It kind of has this wiggle and gets out of alignment and comes back, and it gets worse and worse, and then you've got to have it serviced. I don't fully understand it, but that's sort of at the edges of my understanding. What's the worst these devices measure? Do they ever measure 0 degrees per hour? Do they ever measure stationary? Or is it always east, roughly 15 degrees?
Well, when you say measure stationary, hold on a second. Number one, it makes a measurement. It makes a measurement of the variance of the speed of light. Now, the interpretation is that's due to like the velocity of Earth, right? Like the rotation of Earth. So number one, it makes a measurement. Number two, the measurement, it never produces a non-fringe, meaning it never shows that the speed of light is the same. It always shows a fluctuation. Now, what they try and do is they'll, they say, okay, we're increasing. Well, we kind of went over this earlier, but with modern interferometers and stuff, because they'll try and redo Michelson-Morley and stuff, and they'll say, oh, well, it's trending towards zero. It's trending towards not getting a fringe. We're getting closer to getting C, where it's getting that where it's getting a zero reading like you're talking about. But the reason for that, like we were covering earlier, is that they're changing the where the sensor is located. They're changing the length of the arms of the apparatus. They're changing the type of shielding that's used. They're changing the medium which light's propagating through. All of these metrics affect how the readings are interpreted, or affect the
I
strength of
guess
the reading, and that was all.
making it more
And
accurate.
that,
Is that the gist?
well, so here's the thing, right? So when you get this proportional velocity reading, you can take that to the first order of the velocity, like the rotation of the device, and you can divide that by c, right? You can get an actual that, right?
Okay.
So you can get a first order measurement of velocity. Okay, so when you do that with the Michelson-Morley setup, you get a velocity.
Go on.
One
Sorry.
second.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon.
So when you do that with the Michelson-Morley setup, when you take that fringe pattern and you apply that that velocity ratio to it, you don't get 30 kilometers a second. You get 3 kilometers a second. That's a huge problem because the inertial navigation system, that gyro that you're referencing, that makes the 15 degree per hour reading, it does that as a first order measurement as well with the velocity ratio with c. So it's also, its accuracy is in the same regard to the linear interferometer setup, right? So they say, oh, you can't measure translational motion, right? But it turns out we can, and it fluctuates massively, but the angular rotation stays the same. So if you have
When
any
you say
questions, continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say it fluctuates massively, that's to me an important question. So I would say, when my question is, when the best skilled people use these devices, what accuracy do they claim they're getting? Because that seems like the argument keeps coming back to this. Well, they don't even know what they're doing.
Okay.
Sometimes it's going a little bit slow, and I keep asking, what's the worst it gets when
Gotcha.
a skilled
Dayton
person
Miller could measure the wavelength of light down to 1,000th of a wavelength, but he did all of his measurements, like all the published stuff he did, was into hundredths of a wavelength. So he had the accuracy well enough to do that.
So we're trying to work out how accurate a device that measures translation, or sorry, not translation, rotation, like angular change. And you're talking about a paper. To me, the answer to this is really simple. Can it measure 15 degrees per hour in another direction? So put it on a stepper motor with a gearing system, so it turns at 15 degrees per hour, and point that in any direction you want.
That's the Sagnac effect, brother.
Right. Can it measure that? So I'm saying, if 15 degrees per hour in any other direction, I just randomly put it on an equatorial mount with a telescope, but don't align it with the Earth's rotation, just any direction. Does it now measure two different things evened out to one rotation? Like, does it detect which direction I rotated in? So it's always got east in there, and can it measure another thing? If the whole argument is they're not doing it that accurately, but it can measure 15 degrees per hour or less, imagine it can measure 1 degree per hour. So you've been turning east at 15, but it's measured these other tiny little 1 degree changes. I think it could do that. So then this, like, sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. It just sounds like you keep saying, if the wrong people do it, they get shit results. I'm just trying to ask you, what are the best people doing it? What are their worst results? Because I think they use these in planes and ships and stuff, right?
Bro, 5 million measurements from Dayton Miller, bro. Like,
The wrong people? Who's the wrong people? Are you just making a comment about Bob or something, man? Like, what is the implication supposed to be there? We're talking about, we just spent the last like 3 hours going into excruciating detail. We talked about Maurice Elias doing years and years of measurements with his pendulum. We talked about Dayton Miller, the guy that literally took the Michelson-Morley interferometer and added mirrors to it. He took hundreds of thousands of measurements. What's that?
I mean, sorry, I'm not saying nobody's done it. I'm just saying I just keep trying to get at what are they getting? So Michelson-Morley, they
get fluctuations that go. So they tried to measure 30 kilometers a second. They measured 2.3 with Michelson-Morley, and then Dayton Miller comes and he measures. He is measuring 7 or 8 when he's in Cleveland, and then he goes down to Mount Wilson Observatory in California, and suddenly he's measuring 11. But you're going to try and say he doesn't know what he's doing. The guy has millions of measurements. He showed the periodicity that Witsit was talking about. It shows regardless of whether there's a temperature fluctuation, whether there's a pressure fluctuation. I mean, this is the guy that literally discovered how all this stuff works. The guy that took the hundreds of thousands, millions of measurements to figure out. He's actually the only person that did this until Yuri Galev came along, because everybody else that did it.
These guys are, but I don't know who these guys are. They
I mean,
are not
well,
a good.
okay, I
They are not
apologize.
a good.
I guess you
They are not
weren't
a good
here
measure.
earlier, so if
Yeah, I wasn't.
maybe I got a little frustrated because we're kind of repeating what we already
Yeah.
just spent a bunch of time going through. So I do apologize because I guess you probably weren't here for that. You probably missed some of that, or maybe you just weren't interested, and I can't blame you. But so just
I'm just
I'm
describing
just telling you
something
though,
slightly
like
different, which is
this
why I
happened.
jumped in.
So you
This is why there's
so there,
confusion.
like what we're looking at is first order measurements, right? And we're looking
What
at
I'm
every
looking
time
at,
that they actually use an interferometer, we're looking at what they actually measured and the original methodology that they used with that, right? When you start like the ring laser gyro and the fiber optic gyro, those are purely rotational vectors that they can measure, right? Or especially the fiber optic gyro, it's a coil of fiber. So it's purely a rotational vector that can measure. And to zero that out is it's a software problem. It's a software thing to do to zero that out.
so yeah, the
But
people that that's
with
what I'm kind of
what Dean
getting at,
Miller
because the
measured
most
with the
interesting
orthogonal setups, that was specifically built that the methodology of that is based around the known quote unquote velocity of the speed of light, and then the expected velocity of the Earth through the medium that light propagates through.
I'm just talking about measuring that rotation. So I feel like what we're getting stuck in, and I
Yeah, we're
don't get
talking
why it
about
keeps coming up.
relational motion.
But
So it has to include all these confluence of vectors. We're talking about relational motion.
Yes,
You're going to
that's
try and
what I
make an
want to talk about.
assertion about what the motion is doing, right? So, like, if we're going to talk about the ring laser gyro versus the fiber optic gyro versus the mechanical gyro, if they're all measuring the same thing, then that's a wash, right? Because it's we can't make an assertion about relational motion based on that. Because either
Yes, we
the
can.
medium is
So
moving
can
or
I
we're
speak?
moving.
So
sure, go ahead.
I'm with you I'm with you. Let's discuss the gyros that measure rotational motion. For that reason, I don't know why we keep bringing up like the speed of light and Michelson-Morley. Michelson-Morley would not have measured what we are trying to measure because he wasn't trying to measure angular. He was trying to measure linear. So he was trying to measure a different thing. And
So an orbit
the
wouldn't
reason
be
I'm
but an
talking-
orbit is a rotational path, actually, right? It's a rotation around the center point of the center of the orbit, actually. So
Sure,
that's
like,
why
yeah, 'cause
Einstein
you
had to
measure
make it a linear geodesic. But then it's weird
Yeah.
because then the satellites actually do have to take into account the angular velocity shifts, but that's a whole different topic. But it is weird
Well,
because
it
it
is.
actually just totally debunks Einstein.
But that's the thing. We're jumping from two different topics. Michelson-Morley has
Okay, so
nothing
we go
to do
back.
with gyros.
But the reason that because we're talking about fiber optic gyros and
Let me
ring
jump
laser
in real quick.
gyros, and the
I'm just
standing
gonna
action
give a
effect
heads
is
up here.
incredibly relevant. Go ahead.
Heads up. So it's 2 in the morning, and I'm supposed to be working out at 6 in the morning. So I am going to give the heads up out there. Like let's just kind of start to wrap this up, so then I can close the stream. If you guys want to keep talking, obviously after the stream, I don't care. But
The
I
case
have to
I've
go to
made
sleep.
is that both of these devices measure exactly what they would and should if you rotate them on a stepper motor in any direction, and they measure that aligning with the rotation of the Earth. And the best I've heard as a response on the other side is maybe it's something else called the ether, which is affecting both inertia and inertial turning force and light interference patterns using C. Two different methods regularly come to pretty much the same result, and it seems like the only other answer on the other side is maybe it's something else.
They just don't come to the same result. Like using the word relatively relatively isn't going to cut it here. We're talking about insanely precise measurements so very specific correlation relationship with altitude, direction, and time of the year, where the sun and the moon are. The pendulum was observed to precess 17 straight years during solar eclipses, or during certain eclipses. They saw the precession change with the periodicity of the sun and the moon. Many consecutive years until they stopped doing it. So the reality is that the things that we are told that supposedly prove the Earth is spinning, they don't. In fact, they show that those things cannot be measuring the Earth spinning. The best the globe can try to say is, oh, I promise it's the Earth spinning, but then there are other things that are affecting it too, right? Well, that doesn't work though, because now you're saying that there's a rotation in the sky it's detected. What's up?
You're saying things are affecting my measurements. Like I'm always getting roughly 15 degrees per hour that always centers pointing at the North and South Pole, but I sometimes get 12 and I sometimes get 20. I do think it's like, when am I getting my best results? How good is my calibration process and stuff like that? But to say we need to measure it sharper doesn't answer the question I've been asking for the
That's
last
not what I'm saying.
30
What I'm
minutes,
saying,
which is,
no.
what is the most of the people who do this the most? I need to measure the rotation of the Earth most correctly, and I would say it's people who install and use ring laser gyroscopes and how they do it. I would say, what are the worst results they get? Not some boffin who goes out and does calculations. I mean, if something can measure rotation, what is the most accurate that ever gets?
Do you realize your question's super incoherent? That's why no one's answered it. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
We've been rambling with sophistry for the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna call the show. I'm gonna call the show. I'm gonna call the show.
Most accurate people's accuracy. That is my question. What is
All right, we already the most precise form of method. The most precise method of measurement is interferometry. That's the most precise method of measurement known to man. Okay, and the person that we have people do it. It's even more precise now. People have done it. It's over 10 times more sensitive than it needs to be to detect, like say the orbit, all the way in 87. Now we have insanely precise. The mainstream story was that it was detecting the rotation. Stop interrupting me, dude. The mainstream story is that it was detecting the rotation of the Earth. What we proved is no. That measurement correlates directly with altitude. It correlates with this time of the year. That is impossible if it's the Earth spinning. I've said it 100 different ways. The Earth spins once a day. Doesn't matter if it's July or December. It doesn't change with the time of the year. Therefore, your measurement can't be measuring the time of the year. It can't be error because it is consistent. It isn't random. Error doesn't consistently change. The instrument doesn't all of a sudden give you errors because it's July or because it's September. Because you're keeping all the other variables the same. You're controlling variables like pressure and temperature, but yet, look what happens. The measurements are correlating to the position of the sun, the position of the moon, to the eclipses, and to the altitude.
Who's getting that error? Are you telling me aircraft, like companies that design aircraft flight guidance systems, are getting an error in different months? Or are you telling me that inexpert people who are just touching the device for the first time are getting errors? Who's getting
Dude, we're talking about the utmost experts of the people, the one that discovered the Sagnac effect, the very principle that actually that technology is engineered based upon, right? We're talking about Dayton Miller, the one that completely revolutionized their test after Michelson Morley were the geniuses that invented the very test. These aren't just random people. The people that don't know anything about how it works are the people that fly a plane, okay? Because the plane it's just constantly correcting. All the plane does is constantly correct. Like the actual gyroscopes on a plane constantly corrects. Okay, we're talking about insanely precise measurements that are showing that it has a relationship. This conversation can continue once I shut down the stream, but I don't even know if I'm going to be able to work out in the morning. I'm going to be so tired. So I need to wrap it up. If anyone has any closing remarks, I'm going to give everyone a chance to say their closing remarks, including Eggshells, if you want to say something. Everyone give your little closing remark, and then I'm going to say goodbye to the stream. But whoever wants to say something before we got it, everyone can say something.
I think the argument from Light is weak. The stuff about orbits is irrelevant. It's a totally different thing. And it's just about rotation and how a mechanical device and an optical device get the same thing when we can't see an otherwise connection, and we can measure smaller things more accurately with the same devices. So that's my point. Our error bars are very small and they focus on 15 degrees per hour.
Okay. Who else wants to say something?
Hey, brother, I just want to say a lot of respect for what you do. Thank you very much, buddy.
Yeah, much love, brother. That's trippy.
Yeah, I love you, bro. The truth, man. Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, man. All right, who else wants to say something?
Real quick, there's temperature drift in a fiber optic gyro. It's inherent to the gyro. As it runs, it actually drifts with temperature. So it's like the errors you're talking about are inherent to the device. It's not the people that are running it. But just on the thing with Simon Dan, dude, that was crazy to watch. I think a lot of people are just like, they're just finding what they're looking for, right? And you can do the same thing on the flat earth side if you want. You can go find cathartic things where it's just them talking over people and stomping on people. And, it maybe feels good for some flat earthers to listen to at times because, we get, I don't know, gaslit so much. So maybe it feels good to see someone else own someone else or whatever. But, and that's what that's the same thing with the people that go to Simon Dan. They're gonna go there. They're gonna get what they look for, right? Like I want to see a flat earther being picked apart and made to look dumb. So that's what they're gonna find when they go there looking for it, and it's unfortunate. But it's fine. It's really no skin off our backs. It doesn't matter to us at all. We just move forward, and the people that actually want to listen, and that actually want to have questions, and actually are looking for the truth about the world that we live in, they're gonna find it. We're gonna keep finding ways to reach those people, and it's all about what you put in. So don't put too much garbage in.
Word. All right. Who's next?
Alan, you want to go?
Yeah. Let's see. Mickelson Morley, Dayton Miller, Mickelson Gale Pearson, Hector Minera, Dlive, etc. All measured the same thing. The translational speed fluctuates, and that shows in all the readings uniformly, man. And you get the same equation that people use to thank Bob is the same equation that's used to derive all the other linear velocity measurements. So you don't even know what you're thinking, and that's how easy it is to trick people. So that's cool. Interferometry is the most precise form of measurement for motion, linear or rotational. And again, that's shown in first order effects. So that's all I have to say about that.
Nice. And obviously you can find Toby, Ether Cosmology on YouTube. Also on Discord, you can find Alan, Space Audits. All right, who's next?
New Ko-fi subscription.
Let me go ahead and
from
say
Justin
there's a
Johnson.
new subscription from Justin Johnson. I'm going to read all the remaining donations and subscriptions at the end. I'm not going to forget you guys, don't worry, including Rockfin. All right, who's next?
I got it. So, I mean, this has been actually one of the best conversations I've listened to about the two sides, being able to actually bring up all the ideas and the points, even though it started with us playing both sides. I think the people that came in did a pretty good job of representing what the globe actually has to offer and their only options. That being said, right, I think what Harry said was a good point. That was the first thing that I thought of when I was going over this and I was looking into it and trying to corroborate things, because I didn't understand how those two things would be the same. And when I researched it and I found the only evidence of that was Jesse Gordon's video, I was liable to move on without much more. Like, that may be different for other people. So I think that we should try and find any evidence of a mechanical gyroscopic compass processing in any sort of way anywhere on Earth according to the other procession, because that would be helpful to sway the rest of the world, I think.
Plug your link.
What do you mean processing?
Rain check on that. Shane, plug your link page.
Yep, thanks everyone. You can find everything that I do at adl.place.
Nice. And side note on that, we do want to do the test where we actually take the mechanical gyros on a plane, and it should be tilting over as you go further and further south. It should eventually flip over, and that's what needs to happen on a globe. And we're going to try to charter a plane and set that up. All right. Anybody else want to say something before we get out of here?
Awesome. That's a great idea.
Awesome stream until Eggshells showed up.
Eggshells is all right, man. Anybody else? Flatman, thanks for being here, brother. Anybody else? Who else we got on the panel?
Nothing more to say, just
Matthew.
nice being here.
Sorry, go ahead. I'll cut you off. Say again.
I don't have anything more to add. Just nice being here. Good job. It was interesting.
For everyone at home, Matthew's in the process of reluctantly accepting that the Earth's in the center of the universe. All right. Anybody else? Who else we got? SC or Geo? You guys want to say anything? All right, cool. Whoever's on the panel, do me a favor. Just don't say anything for the next couple minutes when I do the closing, because you'll pop through the stream. But I'll try to make it really quick so that you guys can start talking again right after the stream ends. All right, cool. Let me pop over on full screen. So thanks for kicking it. This was Skull and Globers episode 26. The question of the day was, can you provide any exclusive evidence that the Earth is in motion? Of course, we know that the mainstream model says you can't do that when it comes to the orbit. Relativity says that it's equally valid to say either way, that there's a kinematic dynamic equivalence, etc. We don't have to go into that. We've covered it many times on this channel. And at this point, globe earthers that are familiarized with the subject won't even touch that with a 10-foot pole. They'll just say, no, of course you can't tell the difference, blah, blah, blah. They used to say retrograde, parallax, aberration, but now we've shown them definitively that just isn't the case. And actually it spills over into the conversation that the geocentric position is significantly more viable cosmologically. Now we've taken rotation back, and that is a major pill for them to swallow. Many of them probably wouldn't agree yet, but it's the same thing as how they were also, chest out big and bad about the orbit a couple years ago. They used to say that the pendulum and the gyroscopes prove that the Earth's rotating, and they were very cocky about it. Flat earthers used to drop the ball and just say correlation doesn't equal causation, although true, not the most satisfactory rebuttal, because there actually is a rotation detected. Michelson-Gale-Pearson detected a sidereal rotation with a 98% accuracy. That means there is a real effect. The sky spins, and that stuff on the Earth is actually detecting it. That's a real thing. And just saying correlation doesn't equal causation, or just saying that you're just assuming it, isn't a particularly satisfactory answer to someone trying to figure out what's going on. That's why Bob and I were in the background screaming, but it does happen. The Sagnac effect is the vortex in the ether, and Sagnac himself said that. What we've now done, shout out to legends like Shane, Toby, and Alan, we've sifted through all of the evidence that has been meticulously recorded but basically suppressed and not given any light, because basically if you don't comport to the belief system that is popularized or the consensus, then obviously you're considered a quack. It's automatically assumed to be wrong, and it's dismissed. And if relativistic application can't give you an answer, then it's just thrown away. Okay, the problem with the rotation is, again, very succinctly, that these things that are attributed to the alleged rotation of the Earth, they have to stay the same at latitude regardless of altitude, regardless of time of the year, regardless of any other variable, because it's a spinning sphere, so your angle to that sphere stays the same based on your latitude. So you get the cosine of latitude, and that should give you the rotation of the Earth if that's actually the cause of it. What we have found with insanely precise measurement, in fact, the most precise method of measurement that is known to man, which is interferometry, etc., that there actually is no way that the Earth is rotating causing this effect, because it changes with altitude. It increases with altitude, that there's a preferred direction for the speed of light, that you have to account for c plus v, meaning the actual velocity of whatever it is that is being measured, right? Like, for example, atomic clocks on these quote-unquote GPS satellites, like whatever speed the clock's going, you have to add the v to it. C should be constant. According to Einstein, we're free-falling in a geodesic path of curved space-time. There should be no change in velocity. We're just supposed to be going linear, etc. But all real-life application shows this is not the case. The fact that the measurements are correlating to eclipses and to where the sun is, where the moon is, where they're at in their cycle, and the altitude prove to you that we're actually detecting the rotation of the sky. Of course, Bob and I said this years ago because it's common sense. If you assume that the same system, right, of technology and framework to do Michelson-Morley and Michelson-Gale-Pearson, but Michelson-Morley doesn't detect the orbit, but Michelson-Gale-Pearson does detect the rotation, logically speaking, you only have one option, and that is that there is only one motion to detect, that is the rotation of the sky. Therefore, the only option is that the Earth is not moving what the sky is. You can't claim that just the Earth is rotating, because it has to be orbiting and rotating at the same time. It's a package deal. So, long story short, we've taken rotation back from them. There is no exclusive evidence that the Earth is orbiting, or that the Earth is in motion at all. But it's even worse than that. The default position, as everyone's ever experienced, that the Earth is doing nothing other than remaining stationary to such an extent that we can tell that earthquakes are a actual movement from a stationary position that was previous. Okay, and I won't keep going. I can keep going, but the point is that everything that we do in reality, we have to assume the Earth is stationary. They hijacked the stationary Earth, just like they hijacked the flat Earth and say, yeah, sure, you have to treat it like it's stationary. Sure, we have to measure it like it's flat. But actually, I promise it's curved. I promise it's spinning. Just trust me. Here's my story. We took their story. We sifted through it. We found out the measurements they claim to support their story specifically refute their story, and that's just the way that it goes. Doesn't matter what anyone has to say about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Now I'm gonna go through. I think there's just like a couple other people that signed up, and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay, one other person, Justin Johnson. Thank you for getting the water membership on Ko-fi, and anyone that watches this back, if you want to support, links in the description. Ko-fi.com/Witsit. That's ko-fi.com/Witsit. Also, if you want to come join to the Discord, I'm sure the conversation will continue after the stream. And also, it always goes on 24/7. Their Rumble and their Discord link is in the description. So if you're new to the subject, you have questions, it's a great place to go around the clock. Any questions that you have. Shout out to Geo. Shout out to Earth Awakenings for letting us host the show here, as always. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. And just so you know, if you did become a miswit, that's what we're calling it now. YouTube demonetized me because they love people that speak truth. You know how that goes. I mean, yeah, I talk about alternative cosmology. It's such harmful content. So we've just moved over to where YouTube can no longer stop us. So the miswits will no longer be through there. It will actually be through Ko-fi, which I will then transfer to our own app, our own social media. So we can no longer be censored. So get in. before I officially launch it, and then I'll be giving exclusive merch and stuff to the people that get there first. Okay, cool. That's all that I got going. I'm going to try to do mini streams over the next few days because I think in like a week or so, I'm going to be pretty busy. I'll still try to stream, but maybe not as frequently. And I know I took a break. Give a brother a break. All right, so thank you guys for joining. That's all I'm going to say. So seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So who cares what other people think? They've been wrong throughout all of history. People are collectively not the brightest, right? They hand over their critical thinking to other people. Who cares what those people think? Who cares if they try to arrogantly pretend that they're smarter than you because they have the consensus on their side? It's just really stupid and lame, and no one cares. Okay, and in reality, they secretly admire you for being bold enough to independently think for yourself, and they see your pattern recognition, they see that you don't conform, and they actually like you. They actually wish that they were bold enough to do that. They'll just never say it. So just understand that and speak the truth, because what's true is rarely popular, and what's popular is rarely true. I'll catch up with you guys later. Peace.
Days after days, pseudoscience just a big charade, making theories they just can't explain, on philosophically biased claims. Days after days, we break away just like a renegade, so pay attention, gonna get a grade. The school and globers tell they all awake. School and globers with diplomas and a chip on the shoulder. Debate is over, mind is sober, solar system disclosure. Can't go back once you heard the facts. You make a pact, never take it back. School and ballers and the followers that give them their dollars. They try to holler in the chat that you're a fraud, not a scholar. They hating y'all, that's why they attack. The earth is flat no matter how much they laugh. Days after days, pseudoscience just a big charade, making theories they just can't explain, on philosophically biased claims. Days after days, we break away just like a renegade, so pay attention, gonna get a grade. We school and globers tell they all awake.